Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 98 of the Decline and Fall of Popular Culture. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, Pacelli. I meant
Hello.
Geeky Geezers, where we celebrate all the wonderful things happening to our favorite series.
Is this really episode 98?
No, I don't know what episode we're. I should
Yeah,
have
okay, yeah,
numbered
I was
these
just
a
wondering.
while ago, shouldn't I have? I didn't
Yeah.
think to do that. I should have numbered them.
It
We
would
may be
be
past
an
98
interesting
at this
project to
point,
go
Rachel.
back and check now, yeah.
Well, maybe I'll have to look into that. Have a great stream, my friends. Wishing all a happy Thanksgiving week. Well, thank you, Big Al. Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving to you. FKHC 2005, otherwise known as Tim, welcome. Connie Cleary, welcome. She always gives a thank you after the streams. That's always
She
nice.
does, isn't she awesome? Yeah.
Yes. Let's see, Curtis Selby, welcome. I saw you on the unscripted stream a little while ago. Welcome to Deleted Scenes, who hosted that unscripted stream a little while ago.
Salute.
And let's see here. Curtis Selby. Did I already say hi to him?
Yes.
I think I did. Okay.
Curtis Selby.
Hello, Troy Pacelli. Welcome.
Yes, hello.
Let me see. Netter of Netters Network. Got a hi, sweetie. Thank you for that. And
I love you too, Netter of Netters Network. Nate.
Nate, Geek Flag with Nate Bonjour.
My fellow old farts, he says.
Remember in Inglourious Bastards when Brad Pitt was saying Buongiorno? Remember?
Yes.
He was trying to convince Christoph Waltz that he was an Italian soldier, right? He kept saying Buongiorno.
Right.
JPRPH1, welcome. Hold on. And Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, welcome.
Yes. Good evening. Welcome, welcome.
There's still sports, isn't there? Is sports still fun like it was?
I don't know. I never really followed sports, so it's not like, I would notice.
Space Frago, hello, my friend. Okay.
Yep.
And here we are on
Horizon Talker.
Horizon Talker, welcome.
There you go. Hello, hello.
Hello. So yeah, here we are. Guess we'll just get on down to it. Oh, by the way, I did see that thing you sent me. I don't know if that's for next week about Nika yelling at people they accidentally sent extra Teenage Ninja Turtles layers to, and saying you better send them back or you're not going to be able. That was your mistake, guys.
That was more or less right now, and see. This may be a little bit of a side commentary on the way media is happening these days. So we try to bring you news articles based on what we're seeing in the news. Deadline and all the different news outlets, right? Some of them geeky, some of them mainline. But sometimes there's stuff going around in our communities that are not being picked up by anybody other than chat on X and Reddit and stuff like that. And this is one of those. So and you know what? We're not really covering it, but I guess we're kind of covering it. NECA, who is the toy company that, they put out action figures of various scales and types.
Right.
They're definitely in that 6-inch line that everybody does, Hasbro and Mattel and everything.
Sure.
They also do the 9-inch figures that are comparable to Mego. Now, in theory, they are supposed to be better quality. They're heavier. They're more robust figures.
Right.
They've got joints that got this like Barbie type click in the knee joints and the arm joints, if you know what I'm talking about. The problem has been with NECA for a lot of years that their quality has just been crap. And they are, for a long time, people would receive an action figure, brand new, in the mail, packaged, and it's broken in package.
Wow.
No indication from the package that it, had a rough trip or anything like that. It's coming from the factories broken. And NECA won't do anything about it. In fact, what's even worse is some of these are limited figures. So when you try to get a replacement, sorry, it's out of stock. And their history of customer service has been just literally non-existent, you know.
Awful.
And so now they've got this again, it's a limited thing. It's some sort of a play set. I think it has to do with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was all on pre-orders. Some of you guys that follow my toy commentaries know how I feel about pre-orders.
Yeah.
They send out the pre-orders, and somebody screwed up, and they're sending multiples to the same address. So if you pre-ordered this thing, maybe you got 2 of them.
Wow.
And you're like, the hell? And you're like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll just turn around and resell this other one, or I'll keep one in package and take the other one out. I got 2 of them. Yay. And they are sending out, unsolicited, they're sending out labels. Please send that back. If you don't send it back, you may not be able to order from us ever again. So they literally are starting out with the threat. And it's like, hey, back off, pal. I don't owe you crap. This is your mistake. How about you fix all the toys that came to me broken first, then we'll talk about fixing your other problems.
Actually, by law, if you receive something in the mail that you did not order or ask for, by law, you're able to keep it, and you don't owe the person that's selling the product anything.
You are under no obligation to return unsolicited merchandise.
Right.
You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to return it. And when people are asking, will I be getting mine? I haven't gotten mine yet. Some have gotten 2 and I've gotten none. They're getting responses like, well, you have to hope that your fellow collectors, have the humanity to return this and not hoard it for themselves. It's like, screw you. This is your problem. You figure it out.
You either make more or you refund the money. That's what you do.
Exactly. And what Netter said was 100% right. You'll see in that article that I sent you, there is, I believe, a hyperlink to the community. What is it called? The customer board or whatever it's called that talks about the laws regarding that. Real quick, let me say thank you to Ruby Hoove. He is the he or she, I don't know. I'm sorry, Ruby. I don't mean to misgender.
Don't misgender.
If you don't tell me, I don't know. What are your preferred pronouns, I guess is what I'm asking. But Ruby Hoove gifted one last call membership. Let me see who got that. That went to Logical Spark, who's probably not here, but has probably been made aware of that. Congratulations, Logical Spark. Ruby Hoove comes in and does this drive-by gifting of memberships, and I just love that so much. You are just so wonderful. And Geek Flag with Nate Knows, $20, my friend. Thank you. I'll figure out how to get some of that to you.
Oh, stop it. We'll talk about this later. Keep the money. Reinvest it in the growing empire, okay?
Oh, no kidding.
Read what he wrote.
Oh, that's exactly
Read what he wrote.
Before you geezers get started, I would like to take the opportunity to say I had a particularly not good day, but hanging out with my wife and sons and all of you guys makes it a better day. So thanks. That's really, I appreciate hearing that. That helps me out a lot. I've been struggling a lot. Boomer, I'm not going to get off on a tangent here. I'll be very quick. Been struggling a lot with my workload between my regular job, the holidays coming up, stuff that needs to get done around here, and the channel. I'm just overwhelmed. Yeah. And you guys that follow me probably saw I had to even cancel Monday night at the movies tomorrow because I need the time to get my editing done. Okay. And so I really appreciate that. But I want to know, Nate, do you when you listen and you're with your wife and son, do they listen too? Because I'll tell you, if you say yes, I'll be much more careful about the language I use.
And Ruby is a female.
Huh?
Ruby is a female.
That makes sense. Ruby is a female name. So thank you, Ruby, for letting me know. And, thank you for forgiving me and not taking offense at my not knowing.
Gotcha.
What she responded was she, or so my hubby says.
That's what matters, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Netter and I have joked about that too. It's about whenever this gender stuff comes up, it's like, well, I'm glad that you're whatever gender, because if you weren't, I wouldn't be married to you, and so on and so forth. But real quick, say hi to Zetopia, of course. Leia Plus Size,
welcome.
Good evening. Chris P,
welcome.
Darth Plato, because while I was talking, these people came in. That's why I'm running through them really, really quick. Because that was on me.
That's fine.
And does that get us caught up?
I think we're caught up.
I usually spend time with my wife and kids before I jump on with you guys. Okay. My goal is to start, maybe it's partly because of the monetization, but really because I want to be the change that, I want to see. I want to start trying to rein myself in a little bit and make my channel a little bit more family friendly, so that you would be able to watch it with your family,
Okay. But here we are. Here's the slide. And Logical Spock. Oh, that's who got gifted the membership, right? Jeez,
he changed his name though to Logical Spark. I think he's spreading out his brand a little bit more. Why? Where did Boomer go? We lost the Boomer. No. Okay, hold on a second. Hey, Netter, how you doing? Hey. You want to be my co-host for the night? the
funny man. I kicked myself out. I don't know how I did it. Anyway, you said he changed his name. That's where I left off.
Yeah. Logical Spark used to be Logical Spock, and his icon was Spock. And then he changed it to Logical Spark, and it was like, those 4th of July sparklers, which I thought was really cool. And I don't know. I think he's just trying to rebrand and,
and not get sued by.
Well, I don't think.
I'm kidding. I don't think they would, but they're very
well. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. That's parody.
Let's be honest. They're very anti-fan lately.
They very much are, and we can talk about that more another time, and why I haven't been doing much with the Carton the Klingon Cleric channel. But I think he wanted to go beyond Star Trek, with his fandoms. Okay, Boomer.
Funny man.
That's you. Okay. You had that one coming, though.
The reason I brought up Spock is because every week we talk about the good old days, and for tonight's good old days, Star Trek III: The Search for Spock.
I know why you brought this up. No, we have not done this specifically.
We did Star Trek II, I think, for good old days, but not Star Trek III.
Did we? Okay.
I could be wrong. Maybe we didn't, but I thought we did. I think this is probably the most underrated Star Trek movie. I'll say that.
I agree. And when we talk about, there is this, forgive me, but I'm going to call it myth. It's a myth, in my opinion.
Yes.
That the odd number films are all bad, right? Because I think that while the even number films do tend to be the best,
yes,
I think that some of the odd number films get a bum rap just because they're the odd numbered films. And this is by no means a bad film.
No. There's one part about it I don't like, but I get why it's in there, and I'll get into that. Yes.
Okay, yeah, well, we can talk about that as we get into it. In fact, we can talk about the things we like about it as we get into it. So let me not derail you.
First, let's start with this poster. There are two posters for this, but I love this poster most of all because it's just his outline in the background, because he's not around, or is he? Do you understand?
Well,
it's like
it's well, okay. So there's a couple things here. First, Leonard Nimoy directed this one, which is a very opportune for him, because his character is not in it quite so much, right? And it frees him up to do that. But it is very clear that the story elements related to Spock permeate the entire film. So Spock is kind of always there. And I feel like that's an echo of the closing scene from Star Trek II, where Dr. McCoy says he's not really gone so long as his friends remember him. And they really are. They're not just remembering him. They're they're going to try and save him. But at the same time, you also have, and I don't know if you've ever looked at this poster this way. It's kind of like a death mask, right?
Yes.
Because they're literally going back to his grave, his burial place.
I never thought of it that way, but I think subconsciously that makes sense. I must have known it. It makes sense. And I love you have the Enterprise up there and down in the bottom right. We'll get to that in a minute. I consider to be the coolest spaceship I've ever seen in a movie, which we'll get into. I know people love the Star Wars ships, but I've always preferred, especially the classic Star Trek ships. I'll say that. Yeah.
Real quick, I'm going to bring up Darth Plato's comment. What's funny about this movie is that Taco Bell did a promotion for this movie and spoiled the movie real bad. Darth Plato, I honestly don't know what you're referring to. I mean, there can't be spoilers now, so please fill us in what you're referring to.
Maybe before they were nationwide, maybe they had like a local thing. I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, no, because now I'm trying to think, like, what about this? Oh, here it is. The Romulans were supposed to be the bad guys, but Nimoy changed it to Klingons. But when it was changed, the Bird of Prey wasn't changed. Oh, yeah. I've heard about that. Yeah, and you're saying that the Taco Bell... okay, I'll look into it. I'll check it out.
Interesting.
I want to say hi to Matanui. I'm still waiting for a giant waiter to come in and open the Enterprise. Okay, there you go.
Wait, I got a quote. I got to quote this line, and we're going to get to this Space Fraggle. You do this, Kirk, you will never sit on the captain's chair again. And Kirk's reply, warp speed. That is one of my favorite parts in this movie because
that is a great bit, right?
You can see in his eyes, he knows what this other captain or admiral is saying is the truth. He's done. Admiral Kirk, your career is finished. You'll never sit in a captain's chair again. It doesn't matter. He is doing, I brought this up before when I've talked about this movie, but Spock made a huge sacrifice at the end of 2, but Kirk is also making a huge sacrifice for his friend or friends, I should say, in this movie. And he knows what the consequences will be. But he does it anyway because it's the right thing to do.
He leads the entire bridge crew in that sacrifice. And he makes it very clear, that's a great shot to demonstrate it. And the fact that they're not in uniform.
Nope.
Is also incredibly important.
Scotty is because he had to do covert stuff. Remember?
Yeah, but he's technically out of uniform by having the front open.
That's right. You're correct. You're correct. The renegades at this point. Yes.
Exactly. And he I'm not going to go around with my dork hanging out. Oh my. But in all seriousness, these he tells them before this is technically mutiny. This is
it is.
They could do jail time for this or whatever the equivalent is. So anyone who wants out now, and not a single one of them does, because exactly what you said, every single one of them says, you know what? This guy has been our friend for years and he literally gave his life for us. Yeah. How could we do any less? How could we live with ourselves if we did any less? Now, of course, they don't say any of this, but effectively they say this, right? Real quick, want to say hi to Jesse Green, who jumped in. Hello, how you doing? And of course, Gorilla Censored Thoughts. I've had to change that on all the membership acknowledgments. Kapla.
Now, we are dealing here with the middle-aged Kirk. In fact, the whole crew is middle-aged, maybe even getting a little older at this point. And I remember Sarah comes to visit Kirk, and he's very cross, and he's like, why did you dump his body? Because, of course, the Vulcans have a special ceremony they do for their dead. Right. He just left the body on Genesis. And then he's talking about his contra, and he says, well, if Spock knew this was going to be a thing, he would have said something to me, or he would have, or he would have done something. And then they watch the video, and they realize, oh, he put his spirit inside Dr. McCoy.
See, and that's another great element of this story, because then you understand where Sarek is coming from.
Yes.
People, I think, have kind of lost track of the concept of the mind meld. It was made very clear by Spock in the original series that because of the the nature of Vulcan society, right? The eschewing of all emotions and so on and so forth, and the dignity that goes with that, and the logic and separation that comes with that. The idea of doing a mind meld on many levels, if for many reasons, is illogical. It requires an intimacy that Vulcans are not comfortable with. It's a big deal. So if you are going to do a mind meld with someone, it's got to be for the most dire of circumstances.
Yes.
And it's going to be someone that you are very close to. And when Sarek shows up, he assumes that Spock has turned his Katra over to Kirk, because who else would he have done this? And so, yeah, you'd be pissed too. It's like you just took his Katra and dumped his body. That was dumb, you know? And he's like, oh, you don't have it. Well, that explains it.
He did the examination of Kirk. I remembered that. And then they watched the video of what happened, and they're like, "Oh, it's not McCoy." And what I find interesting about Kirk is Kirk accept this wholesale. He says, "You have to get my," and I says, "I will do whatever I have to get to make this right." He basically says, "I will do." Now, of course, he first goes through official channels, explaining, look, you don't have to believe in Vulcan mysticism, but we just have to get the body right. Let me go to the Genesis. Oh, I'm sorry, it's out of the question, Admiral. You know how. And I love how this follows through on TNG too, where you have all these Starfleet bureaucrats. Well, no, we can't do that. You know, so he says, "Okay, I tried the official way. We're gonna do it anyway." And he's gonna steal they're gonna steal the Enterprise.
Hold up real quick before we get too far. Want to say hi to the Nostalgic Pod Blast. Welcome. And Gorillas, don't worry about it. I will reflect your name however it appears. It's not like your channel, you know, @tag changes, so it's easy enough for me to find you. It's cool.
But that's what I didn't like about the episode of Enterprise where they created the mind meld, something Vulcans didn't like. Oh, I don't know.
Well, actually, I thought Enterprise dealt with it really well, where you've got these what they don't realize is Romulan influenced Vulcan deep state types that you know, completely eschew everything that Sarek ever taught, and you've got this kind of cult led by T'Pau, you know, that keeps up with the mysticism and so on and so forth. And there's lots and lots of allegories there I don't want to get too sidetracked by, but it's like someone needs to pull history back and remind the Vulcans where they came from and what their culture is all about.
Right. I always assumed, but I could be wrong, that the Vulcans were stand-ins for the Greeks, right? Does that make sense?
Well, if you want to be really on point, I always felt that the Vulcans were stand-ins for Tolkien's elves.
Fine, but I figure they're very about logic. I figure you think of Greek society, high philosophy, and the Greeks, even the philosophers, they did accept the existence of a soul. I mean, they debated this. Yes, absolutely. So this was not the idea of the afterlife wasn't even something. Even if they, go ahead.
And I do want to acknowledge. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. It's not until Star Trek VI where Spock is talking to what's her name from Sex and the City?
Kim Cattrall.
Yeah.
I'll never forget her name. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Valeris, I think it was Valeris.
Yeah.
She says something, logic dictates, and he goes, logic and logic. Logic is just the beginning of wisdom. And I'm like, he's got it. After all these years, he's gained that level of wisdom, right? You know?
Yes. But, and I like that about him, and he was kind of setting her a little straight there. But and her name was Valeris, that's right. But
so we can't have these Klingons on the screen and not let me get into this a little bit. So on the left we have Captain Krug, right? Played by
Christopher Lloyd.
Doc Brown. Oh yeah,
Doc Brown. Yeah. Yes, okay, no, yeah. And the guy
And
from Night Court was one of the Klingons too, right?
the individual on the right
Was one of the Klingons too, right?
is John Larroquette
America. Wow. He doesn't
playing
even look like
playing playing Lieutenant Maltz.
him.
Now, Maltz, it's a small role that John Larroquette has, but it's an important one in Klingon lore and Klingon fandom. Here's why. And I'm kind of jumping ahead of Age of Boomer a little bit, but at the very end of this movie, Maltz is taken prisoner. All the other Klingons get killed, and he's taken prisoner.
Yep.
And it's a very sneaky thing that Kirk does. He's holding the gun on him, and he's trying to get some information. You know, I will not talk, and just kill me because I do not deserve to live. Okay, I'll kill you later. And then, you know, I thought you said you'd kill me later. Well, I lied. You know, and he takes him prisoner. Now, Kirk doesn't realize this, I don't think. No. But he may find out later that for a Klingon to be taken prisoner is a destruction of their honor. Yeah. It's a very Spartan society. You know, you know, come back with your shield or on it. You know, in other words, you don't come back, right? He cannot go back to the Klingon Empire. He is now an outcast because he was captured. But what that ends up doing, you know, for those of you that are history buffs and people that love alternate history and stuff, you change one little thing in history and, you know, it has reverberations all down the line. Because Maltz became a prisoner of the Federation, he ends up becoming a sort of cultural liaison to that. We learn more about the Klingon culture and language because of Maltz than all the wars that we fought with the Klingons, you know, before that. So there is, in the real world Klingon Language Institute, there is a prize that you can win every year by taking certain challenges and certain linguistic tests to prove your skill in the Klingon language. They're called the Friends of Maltz. And the upside to this honor is that every year you get to submit a list of words that you want, that don't exist currently in the Klingon language, that you feel are necessary, and they get added to the lexicon. Anyway, I had to get that out. As long as you had John Larroquette on the screen, I had to tell you his story, because where else would you hear that?
Yeah, I love Captain Krug, and it's funny how someone mentioned that the bird of prey, I think that originally started out as a Romulan bird of prey, which was interesting because the screenwriter was doing the commentary on one of the discs for this movie, and he was saying when he was coming up with the screenplay, he did toy with the idea of having other villains like the Romulans be the adversaries, but then he said, when push comes to shove, it's always the Klingons. And he felt it was time the Klingons were back. And I think this was very important to have the Klingons as the adversaries, because we just came off Khan Noonien Soon in the last movie, and that was a huge adversary for Kirk. How do you top that? Well, you can't, but you can bring back a classic adversary of the Federation and get a good actor
and
like
very much beloved. I mean, there's a reason that they have a cameo in the first movie, right? Yeah. By the way, that footage that we got of those three ships gets reused over and over and over again.
Of course,
gets reused in Star Trek 2 for the Kobayashi Maru test.
Of course, it does.
There's another thing that people overlook when they say, well, it was really supposed to be Romulan. Yes, I suppose it was. But even if it was, they would have effed it up, because Bird of Prey was always in the script. And if they had used Bird of Prey for the name of the ship that the Romulans had, the problem with that is they didn't have a Bird of Prey. The Romulans had a Warbird.
I got model kits, though, that used to say Romulan Bird of Prey. Now, those model kits may have been incorrect in calling it that.
Oftentimes they were, and fans call this out all the time. Now, there's another, you know, if you want to really dig into the lore, the whole back and forth about when and how did the Klingons get cloaking devices.
Yes.
So there is, I believe, going back to what Darth Plato was saying about, this originally being the Romulans and stuff, I think they preserved that in the novelization. I did not read the novelization, so this is secondhand, and I may very well be wrong. But that Krug and his crew went and stole a Romulan ship, this so-called theoretical, hypothetical bird of prey from the Romulans. And there was a whole scene like that. But that never made it to the movie. It was never in a script. It's really not considered to be any kind of canon. And in fact, I think where the Klingons got their cloaking device probably is best left to another conversation for another day.
Yes.
I did want to bring up nostalgic. In fact, I'm going to
Yes.
physically bring it up.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Oh, the moaning of
That moaning by Cottrell in Star Trek VI in the mind meld scene was just like the moan in Porky's. Yes, it was. That's absolutely true. And was it ever explained by the Klingons? Were basically in blackface in the original series, yet they look like mutants starting in the motion picture. Obviously, advancements in prosthetic makeup.
This is my idea. I think on the original series, they were trying to give them a Mediterranean look. But
yes,
no. That's what, yeah.
Actually,
was it not that? Okay.
Let's be really honest about this.
Mm-hmm.
The dark complexions, right? And the so-called Fu Manchu mustaches.
Oh,
like
Mongolians. Okay,
again, when you consider that the Klingons were kind of sort of meant to be stand-ins for the Russians during the Cold War, right? Asian kind of makes sense. It's just the Mongols rather than the Russians.
I see.
Same continent, right? That's what they were going for. And yes. So when you get to Star Trek, the motion picture, they go for better makeup and effects and so on and so forth.
They did a whole episode of Enterprise where they explain why the Klingons look different, which we've talked about before.
They finally straightened all that out in canon in Star Trek Enterprise. And then Discovery comes along and blows the crap out of it. So
plus
never mind that.
Also made them look different and Into Darkness.
Actually, I've come to resolve myself with that because I realize that the bumps that they have are no different than other bumps that you see in motion picture, Star Trek 2, Star Trek 6 especially.
I would have let the different look go because I thought it was better than Discovery's look for the Klingons. Because it... And
I also really like the look of Klingons with those cool eyes. They're not terribly alien. They're just they're colored contacts, right? And it's like, I could totally see a race of Klingons having, different color eyes. I like that.
Anyway, though, here we have Krug, who is a great adversary in this movie. And of course, he has the coolest spaceship ever, which was the Klingon bird of prey. I like the fact that its wings would retract, and this is a much smaller ship than like a Starfleet vessel or even a Klingon battle cruiser. That's how it's able to cloak, because the big ships can't cloak like the smaller ships. That's my impression I got from it, at least.
It requires a lot of power. So, and there have been a lot of games that have dealt with this power allocation. You can't go to warp when you're, or you can't have your shields up because it's a power limitation.
This is why on actually Deep Space Nine, we forgot to mention this. We did our Deep Space Nine discussion. They had a treaty with the Romans. They were able to create a Starfleet version of one of these smaller cloak ships. I forgot.
Yeah.
Defiant?
The Defiant,
yes.
the Defiant was it was a scout-sized vessel like the Bird of Prey. It was Romulan technology. It was actually declassified Romulan technology, but they put a Romulan, and unfortunately, this is a storyline that they established early on and then never kept up with. There was supposed to be a Romulan officer on that ship at all times who was the cloaking officer, and they were supposed to be basically making sure that, they weren't monkeying around with the technology that under the Treaty of Algeron, the Federation had promised not to mess with. And that would have been a great storyline to keep going. And they could have developed this Romulan character. They just never did. And I don't know why, but.
So we have a new actress playing Saavik.
Yep. Kirstie Alley would not come back to play Saavik. I have no idea why, but Robin Curtis took her place, and I liked Robin Curtis too.
They were both good.
Yep.
And there we have Kirk's son, of course, is back, David.
David Marcus, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
And yeah, this was a kind of a sad movie for him, but again, to get Spock back, I guess the point is it's going to come with costs, and we'll get to that. But here we
and
have,
one of the costs is his son, and
yeah,
that was a cost he didn't have a choice in. He didn't know that was going to happen,
no.
right?
And who knows? It could have happened regardless. It's a bunch of scenarios that all happened at once that caused that. But this is the
Yeah.
one of my favorite parts of the movie is when they're stealing the Enterprise.
Yes.
And of
Yes,
course the
and Scotty has sabotaged the Excelsior.
and this wonderful brand new ship that has transwarp drive, and you saw Sulu looking at it like it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is sleek looking. Let's be honest.
And they still use this design on TNG, the Excelsior.
Oh
They made it
yeah,
a class of
it
starship.
becomes a workhorse of the Federation. It really does. Yeah.
But I love this when they're exiting the starbase, and this is beautiful design. And I love the fact that you can tell this is over Earth. You got the moon there in the background.
Yeah.
And there's the big starbase where I guess they dock the ships, they construct the ships in stations like this too. I don't know. Maybe that's a different place they construct them, but very impressive. And
Yeah. No,
yeah,
this is actually not even really a starbase. This is a I forget its designation. I want to say it's like Earth One or something like that.
it's a huge station.
This is an administrative station in synchronous orbit around Earth.
How big does this
Regular
thing have to
space
be to
stations are really
house? Well, how big does this thing have to be to house starships? Think about
yeah,
that.
it's huge. It really is huge. But this is not a construction facility. The construction facilities are what do you call them? The
They're
equivalent
different.
of space dry docks.
Yeah, I think we've seen those maybe
We
mentioned in movies and stuff.
and actually, I don't even know if there are any near Earth. It's the Mars colony where the ships are usually constructed.
Yes, they showed that in Picard.
Yep, Utopia Planitia. Well, that was established canon long before Picard.
Right. Star Trek: The Voyage Home is a favorite. We'll get to that one eventually. I do like that one as well. I thought about doing that one for tonight's, but I don't think we've done 3 yet. Here's the part of the movie I don't like: all the stuff on the Genesis planet with Spock's body aging up, and like he's going through Palm Far, and they don't show this in the movie because she just does some weird thing with her hands to kind of calm him down. But of course, with Palm Far, what is it? It's either violence has to happen or mating has to happen. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the impression I got?
That's exactly it.
And there was a rumor too that the reason Saavik was staying behind in Star Trek 4 was because she actually mated with this unsold Spock, regenerative Spock, and that she had to mate with him, and she was carrying his child. And I don't know if that was ever established later on, or they just didn't bother bringing that up.
Well, it is important to address this. It's going to be very important to our later conversation.
Yeah.
But yes, so that thing of the Vulcans, the romantic partners, shall we say, of Vulcans, touching the fingers like that, was established back in the original series when you see Sarek and what's her name?
Spock's mother?
Amanda.
Yeah.
When he holds up his fingers, she goes and, takes, just like, a husband would put out his hand, his wife would take his hand.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing. But you get the impression from this that connection, that intimate connection between a husband and wife, at least intimate for Vulcans, is there's a bit of a psychic bond there. Again, going back to what we were saying about the intimacy of the mind meld, right? You have to imagine that that's part of what happens during the Ponfar. Going back again to the original series, the whole Ponfar, Spock went through a Ponfar. The whole idea is at a young age, you must bond with your future mate.
Okay.
And every 7 years, like salmon going upstream to spawn, Vulcans have to return. And if they are unable to do that, and what is implied. It's not always really 100% specified, but you have to make that mental bond again with your mate. I mean, mating for life for the Vulcans is really mating for life. You are intimately tied together,
They
right?
live a lot longer than humans too, so it's a
Exactly. So you know, if he doesn't get, and they establish this, if he doesn't get back, basically, if he doesn't get back to his wife and, you know, he's gonna die, you know. So here, and my understanding too is if you go through your first Ponfar and you aren't bonded to somebody, same thing, you're gonna die. You need somebody to help you through that. And
you mean you need to have some fun time?
But they don't actually even necessarily see it that way. But yes, you know, it is also meant to be the flip side of all their repression of their emotion is eventually you have to release it.
yeah.
Okay, I just realized I'm getting very yeah, this sounds very adult, and I guess that's kind of implied. But
Okay.
so it is strongly implied that he would have died had Savick not
We
taken
don't know what
pity on
happened.
him and helped him. Well, we do now. We're going to talk about that later on.
Okay.
But it's important that we set that groundwork for, yes, there's been a fan theory that exactly that she helped him through his Ponfar, ended up preggers, and that's why she stays behind Star Trek 4. This was also touched on in comics and books. Again, not canon until it's canonized. And I'm going to argue later that it has now been canonized. We'll get to that
Now
later.
here we have one of my favorite parts. Another one of my favorite parts of the movie: the fight between the Enterprise and the Bird of Prey.
Yes.
And Kirk was smart because he knew something was up because they already destroyed a starship in U.S. Grissom. Which, to be fair, we find out it was accidentally blown up because the Commander Kirk is like, I wanted prisoners because he wanted to negotiate because he wanted the plans for the Genesis project. Because he didn't like the Federation having that much power. If you see things from Krug's perspective, he is acting the way a Klingon would. That's the weird thing.
You better believe I've looked at it from Krug's point of view, and it's like very easily defensible. You literally have a planet-destroying weapon that may not be what you intended, but it is what you have that tips the power balance, and we are going to take this back to the Klingon Empire.
The Enterprise gets some good shots in, but unfortunately, it still is damaged from the battle with Khan. So it can't really do much after that. And Kirk tries getting the surrender, but Krug's like, no, something's up. So he he does a reversal thing, and he talks about, I guess, prisoners on the parents to show you that I'm serious. I'm going to kill one of the prisoners. Unfortunately, that ends up being Kirk's son, David. Actually, no, it wasn't David. They were going to pick Savick, and then David throws himself in front of the Klingon, tries to wrestle him away, and then David gets killed. So David was trying to protect the other two, like Kirk would have, actually. But it was also David's fault the Genesis planet was coming apart because he used a shortcut with protomatter to get the Genesis project working.
So, in a way, it's kind of like him taking responsibility for his own mistakes. Real quick, I want to comment on what Horizon Talker said. Yes, in Voyager, they tried to deal with the fact that Tuvok couldn't get home for Ponfar. And honestly, I don't think it's necessarily a retcon. I think they're kind of tongue-in-cheek implying he finds another way to get release, let's say. And I don't like them implying that. And then Space Fraggle says 1,000 Kelly cams. Yes. There is actual an in-canon what do you call it? Conversion for Kelly cams to, human units, but I can't even translate miles to kilometers, so I'm not going to try to do it with Kelly cams.
But anyway, I did want to bring up, of course, we're going to wrap this up soon because you should actually see the movie if you haven't. But Kirk, he says, "Okay, I'll make the deal. You can beam over and get and he says, "No tricks, Captain." He says, "No tricks, Admiral," right? And of course, from Kirk's point of view, doing something that Kirk did, I hear, was probably considered dishonorable, right? So Kirk, of course, sets the self-destruct sequence on the Enterprise, beams everybody down to the planet right before the Klingon crew beams aboard. not all of Krug's men, but a lot of them, they beam aboard and they're like, no one's on the ship. This is strange. And we're hearing a noise. And then hear the computer, I guess Major Barrett's voice saying 5, 4, 3. And he's like, get out of there. And
the
then
thing to remember is that presumably the Klingons did not speak, English.
Yes.
But it is implied to me, maybe not. Maybe Krug understood.
He would understand what maybe a numerical sequence sounded like.
Or, a counting down like that.
Yes.
He figured out what it meant. Get out of there!
And then the whole thing, this effect, it's one of the greatest effects I see. You see like the fire poking up through it, and then boom, the entire saucer section ignites. And then you see this huge explosion. From that fire explosion, you see the Enterprise, what's left of the Enterprise, flying through. And then they're looking at it on the surface of the Genesis planet, and they're seeing it burn away. And it's one of those scenes, and he says, what have I done? And then Bones says, what you had to do, turn certain death into a fighting chance to live.
Yes.
And that's Kirk.
Right.
And I also see how, from a Klingon point of view, he was probably really angry, because that's not a Klingon thing to do, probably, right? Do a trick like that.
Well, actually, I would argue, and even among Klingons, you're going to have disagreement. But I think for a Klingon to self-destruct his own ship to take out the enemy is a very Klingon thing to do.
Okay.
But beaming off and not going down with your ship, yes, that would be considered dishonorable.
Yeah. But anyway, classic movie. I won't spoil how it ends, except I will spoil how it ends, because, of course, it doesn't end with them just escaping the planet and getting Spock's body. They actually go through the entire sequence of them trying to reunite the soul with the body they got off Spock that was regenerated off of the Genesis planet. And you get to see this whole Vulcan ceremony. And it says, do you choose the danger? Or do you? And McCoy says, I choose the danger. Remember?
Yeah.
And they're all.
And that was again McCoy, because it is kind of funny when he first finds out that he's got Spock's Katra in it, which has been causing him mental difficulty, because it's kind of like being possessed by someone else, right?
It's like having a personality.
Exactly. And Kirk explains it to him, and he goes, green-blooded bastard. This is his revenge for all those arguments he didn't win.
Funny. You know what's funny? Vulcan warriors look badass. We never really get to see too much of the Vulcan military, but I bet they do kick ass. They're probably very disciplined.
I imagine them a lot like the Swiss Guard at the Vatican, right?
You never hear of anyone invading Vulcan, do you?
That's true. That's true. That is true.
But and I like what Sarek says to Kirk, and he says, and this is actually, Sarek's actually showing sympathy to Kirk, which I thought was nice of him too. He's like, everything you did, your ship, your son. And Kirk says, I did what I had to. I think Sarek really, he's the Vulcan, he's not going to show it, but he had a lot of, he felt like he probably owed a debt to Kirk after this.
There is a lot of thought that goes into these characters, right? You have Sarek here, who has been married to a human female for a generation, right? And part of it was because he was in that ambassadorial role. He needed to understand the humans, and he ends up having a son who is half human. And so whether he wanted to or not, he understands humans better than probably just about any Vulcan, right? And look, despite what people say, Vulcans understand emotion. They do. They repress it. They try to tamp it down, but they do understand it. And so he knows the sacrifice that Kirk has made, but he also understands why he made it. He understands how important Spock was to him. And for any father to know that their son's friend cares about them that much, that means a lot.
Yeah. But great classic science fiction film, underrated. It's bogged down a bit with that Genesis planet stuff, which I get. I understand why it's in there. They had to wrap up that story and figure out a way to bring Spock back. It's funny. Nicholas Meyer said, I'm not having anything to do with that because he doesn't believe in resurrecting characters like that. But I give points to the writers were doing their best. It's no one's fault. It's just that it's just a little rough. But In fact, they complain about even on the commentary. They say, some of the scenes on this Genesis planet reminds me of the sets on the old Star Trek series. How it's not quite convincing in parts. But
I gotta be honest though, I love the what do you call? Well, okay, so you have Spock, who kind of goes through this whole rebirth physically, right, because of the Genesis effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also have like microbes that were on the torpedo tube.
Yes,
and they progress into like larger creatures and these big like worm-like creatures. One that the Krug like has to like. It gets wrapped around his
and
his
he kills it on his own, right?
Crushes it with his hand. Yeah,
that's what a Klingon would do. Yes,
exactly.
But yeah, check out Star
by
Trek.
the way, this movie also introduced. It was the first appearance of a much beloved Klingon sidearm, the Diktach, the big dagger with the spring-loaded side blades.
Yeah,
I have one.
Oh yeah,
of course I do.
That's a good little knife. So that's an example of a kind of an alien knife or something that works instead of having the hilt on the lightsaber in Force Awakens, which made no sense to me. You're going to cut off your fingers with that thing.
Yeah.
The purpose of a hilt is so you can better.
Yeah, those especially when I was researching, different fencing styles and stuff, and I came upon the offhand weapon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I totally get why you would want that. Even if you're holding a in one hand, you might still want a Diktach in your offhand.
Yes. And Big Al's Wicked review is up. Well, that's great. I guess
I literally have been looking for. In fact, I mentioned this to him the other day. I said I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it because, I've been hearing some things. Excuse me, hiccups.
Sequels are not canon. What, the sequels to Star Trek: The Motion Picture? No, I'm kidding. Maybe he's meaning the new Star Treks. I don't know. Darth Plato. Anyway,
I mean, it depends on which sequels we're talking about. Yes. Absolutely. I have.
Don't get me started on Into Darkness.
Some films do not need sequels, but some sequels do just fine. And there's been a time or two where a sequel's been better than the original. I have all 10 films on my physical media box set. Also, I own the 3 Jar Jar Abrams films. Well. Yeah, you can if you want to.
I was willing to give it a chance after the first one. There were issues with it, but I'm like, okay, I get this is a reboot, new audience, new generation, and then we got Into Darkness and I'll go on an Into Darkness rant someday.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Okay. Here we go though. Oh.
Yeah, I gotta drop the
link, man. Honestly, I gave you enough.
I got so involved in this conversation. You got me on the Klingons.
I need to not bring up Star Trek on Good Old Days. We're going to talk for an hour. That's what happens.
Yeah, it becomes the whole show. Yeah.
Do I have my stinking? Oh wait,
we did this. What was it? Last week or 2 weeks ago? We went so long on Good Old Days. When I was doing the clips, I'm like, what the hell? This is a 55-minute video. I'm like, we talked this long?
Yes. Hold on. Sorry, I got distracted there for a second. Where are my notes?
Thanks, JPRPH1. Yes, Into Darkness absolutely is an abomination. Yeah, I didn't really care for the 09 Trek. The only reason I have that one on DVD is because it's a bootleg that a coworker gave to me. I'm like, oh no, I don't care. Let them come after me. I'll give it up. I'll break it. I'll wipe my butt with it. But the only reason I have it. It's not like I would have paid for it. They didn't lose anything on me.
It was a Romulan. No, it was not the Death Star. It was a Romulan mining vessel that could create black holes and destroy planets. Wait, let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly what it was. Well, you actually make a great point. They actually make the science of planet-destroying weapon make more sense since it has to do with black holes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, new class action lawsuit accuses Hasbro.
Wait a minute. As long as he's brought this up, this will be the last thing we say about that. Search for Spock is the only liability in the film, the clunky Star Wars cantina scene ripoff. Yes, I understand that. But what redeems it is, how can you be deaf with ears like that?
I remembered that. I kept thinking the actor playing the alien at the time when I was, is that Vincent Price? I thought it was Vincent Price, but it wasn't. He reminded me of Vincent Price for some reason.
You're right. Now that you mention it, I do see where you get that from, but
wasn't him.
But yeah. Anyway.
In the latest PR nightmare for Magic the Gathering and Power Rangers IP owner, a new class action lawsuit has accused Hasbro of causing financial harm to its investors by knowingly and willingly misrepresenting both the amount of product they were unable to move and customer demand for it. Filed with the Southern District Court of New York by the law firm Bernstein, Leowitz, Berger, and Grossman LLP on behalf of the West Palm Beach Fighters Pension Fund, said suit claims that Hasbro violated the U.S. States Exchange Act by continuing to present an apparent 4-year buildup of inventory as being done in order to meet the anticipated customer demand, rather than admit that the stockpiling was a result of their inability to adequately move their various products. Defendants represented that the rising inventory levels reported in the company's periodic financial reports filed with the SEC during the class period reflected outside and anticipated demand rather than excess supply that outpaced waning demand, reads the lawsuit as initially tracked down and shared by Polygon. Defendants' class period representation that Hasbro's inventories were of high quality and at appropriate levels were false. In truth, defendants knew that Hasbro had overpurchased inventory to an extent that significantly outpaced customer demand. To this end, the pension fund's attorneys continued, Hasbro had made materially false, and we were talking about Savick earlier, okay?
Right.
Made materially false and misleading statements and omissions and engaged in a scheme to deceive the market. In doing so, artfully inflated the price of Hasbro common stock that operated as fraud or deceit on all investors who purchased stock during the period between February 7th and 2022 and October 25th, 2024. Later, when the truth concealed by defendants' prior misrepresentations and omissions was disclosed to the market, including after the close of the market on January 26, 2023 and October 26, 2023, the price of Hasbro common stock fell precipitously as the prior artificial inflation came out of the price over time. They further argued, as a result of their acquisition of Hasbro common stock during the class period, the defendants' material misstatements and omissions, plaintiff and other members of the class suffered economic loss, i.e. damages under the federal securities laws. So what do we think so far, huh? They're in some trouble?
Well, let me do a quick translation because that was a lot of legalese.
That was a lot of word legalese, yes.
When you invest in a company, when you are a retirement fund, when you are a mutual fund, whatever, and you are buying stocks, you're making a guess that a company is going to be profitable, right? So it's, we talk about blue chips. Blue chips are the ones that are always safe, right? Things like food and fuel and stuff, those are always going to be a good bet. They're not going to go up a lot, because they're not high risk, but at the same time, they're always going to go up just the way the rest of the economy goes up. If the bottom falls out of blue chips, you have bigger problems than your individual stocks. Your entire economy is crashing. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to, things that aren't necessary to live, right? Like toys and games, right? There's more risk involved. And so you want to say, well, how do I know I should invest in your company? And that's what earnings calls are for. They say, well, look, we did this and we did this and we did this, and this is what we've got coming up, and this is what we're expecting to happen, right? And there is a legal obligation to be truthful. You've got to say, yeah, last year we lost a lot of money on this. That was maybe a bad decision. So next year we're going to do this instead. To try and, it's honesty that you are required. And of course you're going to gild the lily by saying, we've learned this and going forward, we'll be more profitable because we made this mistake last year, it's illegal for you to make it sound like you did better last year than you did to cover up your mistakes so that you can continue to double down on those mistakes next year. Look, we have talked about companies doing that in the entertainment industry for as long as we've been doing Geeky Geezers, right? And what have I always said? Eventually you run out of other people's money. Eventually they decide, where is this money you say that you're making? You keep rearranging the cookies on the plate, trying to make them look like more. That doesn't actually make them more, you know? And as it turns out, it's illegal to do that. That's a con, you know? And you could be sued for that. And that's exactly what's happening here. Now, I suspect that this is a canary in the coal mine. I think you're going to see a lot more cases coming against bigger and bigger companies. It's going to start with Hasbro, and it's going to work its way through the marketing companies, and eventually it's going to be hitting, it's already hitting like Disney. Disney has had some lawsuits that are very similar, and I think you're going to see some bigger ones in the near future.
Yeah. So
it's interesting that they choose this picture here. We used this image. This is from their card game for what was it, like a Middle Earth card game or something like that Hasbro was doing, and this is supposed to be Aragorn.
Yeah,
and I think that the outlet that's doing this is very subtly saying, yeah, the DEI didn't work out so well for Hasbro, and it's worse than they're letting on, and people are realizing that and suing them over it.
I wonder. I don't know. I'm not confident enough that we're at the point where there's fight back happening, but we'll see. We got to keep up the fight. But
yeah,
I maybe people are just becoming more aware and sick of this nonsense, but I don't know if they're just going to keep doubling down on this nonsense despite
honestly,
because
going back to the previous topic, you got to be like a Klingon. This we do not forget nor forgive.
Oh no, no, I agree with you there. Yes.
But what I also mean is we can never become complacent and allow this to happen.
No,
we've got to push back and punish them in a way that they will not forget. And this is what I keep saying. The first step, interestingly, this encourages me that the first step has already occurred. The first step that I have encouraged people, and you have as well, Boomer, and Deleted Scenes has said this. Vote with your wallets. Close your wallets. Tell them we don't need you. As long as you continue to do this, we will not patronize you. Well, that has happened to Hasbro, and they've been trying to hide it. Now the next step happens. The investors realize this has happened and are now punishing them for hiding it.
Yeah. So we'll keep on this story. Of course, we're gonna have more Hasbro stuff in a minute.
Yes, we will.
Kadokawa.
Oh yeah, I got to drop this article too, don't I? Sorry.
Kadokawa. Some of you may be very familiar with them as a anime producer. I know about them from back in the old days of anime. You see their little symbol come on. Looks like correct me if I'm wrong. Is that a phoenix? I should know.
Could be a phoenix, could be a peacock. I'm not really sure.
Okay. I think it was a phoenix. I could be wrong. But apparently they also own From Software. I didn't realize this. And From Software is a very highly sought after game developer. They made the big hit. They made Dark Souls. They made the big hit last year, Elden Ring. You've probably heard of it. Kadokawa Corporation has confirmed it has received a buyout offer from Sony, but insists it has yet to make a decision on whether to sell up. Here's the decision, Kadokawa. Please say no. Please. Earlier this week, Reuters reported that Sony was in talks to buy Kadokawa, whose subsidiary From Software is behind Smash Hit Elden Ring, the Dark Souls and Armored Core games. That's like a mech series.
Right.
And PlayStation exclusive Bloodborne. Kadokawa has now confirmed the report with a note from CEO Takeshi Natsuno issued after shares in the company skyrocketed on the news. There are some articles on the acquisition of Kadokawa Corporation ere after the company by Sony Group Incorporated, Natsuno said. However, this information is not announced by the company. The company has received an initial letter of intent to acquire the company's shares, but no decision has been made at this time. If there are any facts that should be announced in the future, we will make an announcement in a timely and appropriate manner. So this probably leaked when it shouldn't have. Kadokawa's business extends into other areas of its Sony's broader entertainment offering, which includes anime, manga, TV, and film. Kadokawa is a prolific publisher of anime, and Sony already owns anime streamers Crunchyroll and Funimation. They'll basically own the majority market share of all anime. I don't like one company controlling all that, and I don't trust Sony. As well as From Software, Kadokawa owns Danganronpa developer Spike Chunsoft, Octopath Traveler developer Acquire, and RPG maker and pixel game maker developer Gacha Games. Kadokawa is the majority owner From Software with around 70% of the company. Sony already owns around 14% of the developer, with Tencent owning 16%. Everybody wants this developer. Pierce Harding Rolls, research director at Ampere Analysis, told IGN that the news of a potential deal isn't that surprising. Sony's interest in Kadokawa's games publisher From Software is made more concrete in 2022 when it acquires a roughly 14% share of the company, following up on its longtime collaboration with the company, Harding's Rolls said. At the time, Sony mentioned a broader interest in cross-media development of anime and games IP to support other media businesses. So in that sense, any deal for the parent company Kadokawa, which also operates extensively in manga and anime, is a natural extension of this earlier deal. These other areas align nicely with Sony's anime business. The market conditions for acquisitions have changed dramatically over the last 2 years, but Sony will always be looking for opportunities that can fuel its growth and bolster that IP portfolio, and that represents value. It's weird. Disney was like in the old days, they were like the big one acquiring everything. Now it looks like Sony is doing the stuff that the kids are into now. Like they're looking. I mean, I don't know. It's just.
But I do agree.
It's a crane. Thank you, Geek Flag. It's a crane. It's Superman. I'm sorry. Okay.
Honestly, the problem is, like you said, the monopoly. You don't want a monopoly. That is bad. That is bad. It's bad for business. It's
bad for everybody.
It's bad for the customers, and it's bad for the industry. If Sony gets a hold of all anime, they control.
They'll control a lot. They already own a lot as it is. If they get Kadokawa, that's another feather in their cap.
And if there isn't someone competing with them, forcing them to do better, they'll just do whatever the heck they want.
And Sony, as we mentioned, they do have their own woke brigade inside the company because it operates out of California. Now, I don't know if since the Concord disaster, maybe they're I actually no, they're not. I don't have any hopes that they are curtailing that right now. But I thought maybe
no, because if they acquire this, they feel like they're insulated. They can do whatever they want.
Maybe. But yeah, that's the news of the Kadokawa. It was mentioned on I was on Netter's network on Thursday, and the special guest Brandon, the anime guy, mentioned this, and I was like, oh, was Sony really trying to buy Kadokawa? And now I realize why. The main thing is they want From Software. I knew they were interested in From Software. To get From Software, they have to purchase Kadokawa, who own the majority stake. Anyway, so Kadokawa is not the KFC of the East. No, well, Japan has KFC.
Yeah, they do.
Very popular over there. They have KFC at Christmas. That's a big thing over there.
I was going to say, it's a big Christmas tradition with them. And honestly, I thought it was the weirdest thing when I first heard about it. But the more I see it, the more I think it's kind of adorable.
I like it. And part of me wonders, I bet their KFC is better in Japan than it is over here. I bet the ingredients are better.
Just about everything that's fast food in other countries is better. Oh, thank you so much. Another great show, Geeky Geezers. A talk show that entertain. Well, I like to think that we entertain.
We'll see.
I'm afraid that sometimes when we get off on our rants, maybe we're not entertaining so much.
Well, the rant is incoming. Post the next story. We got a rant incoming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, So tell me about Microsoft Flight Simulator.
You've heard of Microsoft Flight Simulator. You're a
Oh
PC
yeah, I've
guy,
played it.
yes.
I love it.
Yeah, it's one of their big exclusive things that Microsoft
In
owns.
fact,
even
I've
for the
heard
Xbox.
that earlier versions of Flight Simulator were so good
Yeah.
that people would like go to learn how to fly, and they were like, "Have you flown before?" Well, no, just Microsoft Flight Simulator. You know, they actually had actually is a flight simulator. You know?
Yeah, it's very accurate from what I've heard. Yeah. The hotly anticipated Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 has endured a rough launch with players reportedly ridiculously long initial loading screens lasting in some cases for hours on end. Things are so
Yeah.
bad that Asobo Studios full price flight sim, which you can buy a collector's edition on Best Buy right now for $199.99. Imagine paying $200 for a collector's edition of this and bringing it home and finding that you can't use it. Anyway, things are so bad that Asobi Studios full price flight sim, Microsoft Game Studios publisher across PC and Xbox and straight into Game Pass yesterday, November 19th, is now on an overwhelmingly negative Steam user review rating. Even those who do manage to load into the game are having problems with players reporting missing content. In a video message to Microsoft Flight Simulators 2024's disgruntled community, Jorg Newman, head of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and Sebastian Walk, Asobo CEO and co-founder, explained why the game launch had gone so badly wrong. Newman began the video with an admission: "We knew the excitement was high for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but frankly, we completely underestimated how high, and it really has overwhelmed our infrastructure. Frankly, we completely underestimated how high excitement was, and it really has overwhelmed our infrastructure." Walk then proceeded to go into more detail, revealing that even simulating 200,000 concurrent players during pre-release load tests failed to prevent the launch from causing catastrophic server problems. I'm assuming this is a cloud-based game too, or at least that's a big part of it, because I guess it's not a single-player mode, but maybe that's the point. We've been struggling for a few hours with one of our services, Walk explained. In Flight Sim 2024, there are a few new systems in the sim. People have noticed in the career mode, there's all sorts of missions. And when players at the very beginning, when they start, they're asking a server for some data, and that server is going to catch it in the database. Or maybe when you play the game, it has to send something up to the server before you can get to the mission. I don't. It's a pretty big database, and there's a cache, but that cache is currently getting saturated. Yes, because people wanted to buy your game and play your game.
Yeah.
That's what happens. This is a good thing that people want to be playing your game. It's a cache that has been thoroughly tested during the whole tech alpha. We've done load tests simulating 200,000 users, and tonight it's just completely overwhelmed. Well, it's not like you're a major technology or corporation organization.
I know,
right?
it's Microsoft.
Microsoft. Asobo's initial attempt to fix the problem showed promise, but eventually buckled in as this cache collapsed once again. We've tried to restart the service, as Walk said. We've taken measures to throttle the number of people who can come in at the same time. At some point, it worked pretty well, so we've increased the query speed by 5 times, and it worked well for maybe half an hour or so, and then all of a sudden, the cache collapsed again. And I feel like, as a customer, why am I hearing all of this?
Exactly.
You know?
It sounds like a you problem. My problem was I paid for this.
Probably $70.
Now I expect to be able
minimum
to play the game.
We're restarting. We're trying to investigate, doing our best, and going as fast as we can to make sure everybody can go in. So why are Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 enduring this internal loading? And why, when players do manage to get into the game, are they seeing content they shouldn't or not display properly? The issue that causes this is pretty much that the service fails, it restarts, it retries. Walk said, first of all, that creates extremely long initial loading, which is not supposed to be as long. After a certain time, it will fail. After the missing data is blocking, you'll not finish loading, stopping at 97% and get a message. That means you need to restart. And if the content was not completely blocking, you may enter the sim, and then maybe there's a few planes missing, maybe there's some content missing, and that's all due to the same problem with that server and service. The hope is that Asobo fixes the problem as soon as possible. Yeah, maybe pre-launch. Oh, wait. Walk said that the server issues are sorted out. Players shouldn't see the queue screen they're currently seeing. Well, it's a great launch day. We know. No, it's not a great launch day. While it's a great launch day, we know a lot of people are frustrated, Newman concluded. But really sorry, we want to apologize. We have some problems today. The team is on it. We will keep going. One of them should say we should have this sorted out in the new year. It's like,
yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
I remember when Street Fighter 5, you've heard of Street Fighter, right? Like Street Fighter 2. Capcom released Street Fighter 5. It released without the typical arcade mode on it where you fight against the computer in a story mode and you get to the end. It didn't have that in there. It was mainly being billed as, here's a game you play online with other players, right?
Sure.
So, and there's like a tutorial mode, and like I think there was a tutorial mode in it. And I think people brought it home and the servers were busted and nobody could play it. And I was watching gamers online trying to launch it after they had paid $59.99 for this thing at launch. Yeah. And they basically have a coaster that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's what this is reminding me of. Sounds about right, and it crashes too. Oh, that's funny. A flight simulator has delays. Sounds about right, and it crashes too. Very funny. Exactly. So it's like the airline industry.
Exactly.
With a current stock price of 417, yeah, you'd figure they could handle this. I don't understand Microsoft as a gaming company. They've had. I picked on Sony for Concord, but I think Sony admitted they screwed up and even issued refunds. What's Microsoft doing in this situation? You stuck it on Game Pass, which was your free subscription service, so you knew people were going to be jumping on Game Pass to play this thing. Then you have the people that went out and bought it, actually paid the money to play it in the subscription service, and it's not working there. Plus, you had all the people, I guess, playing on PC as well, in addition to Xbox, and this is just... Well, it is Thanksgiving time. Well, you're not going to be able to play Flight Simulator 2024 over your Thanksgiving break, I guess.
Right.
So, I don't know.
And it's very easy for them to go, well, we got our money. Oh, well.
Yeah, that's what I think they're thinking. It's like, it's a great launch day. We got our money. Who cares if the game works or not?
Well, but, you'd think that the people that own interest in this are going, yeah, but we may never see money from these players again because they won't trust us on the next version.
I honestly thought turkeys could fly. I remember that reference. That's from WKRP in Cincinnati. Yes. So yeah, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. It'll be 2028. Maybe you'll be able to play it then.
Right. Exactly. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Well, you know what? Once again, we have Elon Musk to the rescue on this one.
This is a short one, but I think we'll talk about it for a minute or two.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has just found out that Wizard of the Coast has been disparaging Gary Gygax and the original Dungeons and Dragons crew for many years now. He's so disgusted that he publicly tweeted that Wizard of the Coast should, quote unquote, burn in hell for their treatment of the game's creators. Wow. I've heard there's some bad stuff. Was in one of the new manuals coming out where they're kind of trashing the original creators? Is that something that I heard?
Yeah, that's basically it. And I mean, they may not call out people by name, but when they're talking about elements of the original game and you know exactly who was responsible for those, I mean, it's like when you have problems with a bakery and you call them out and you accuse them of doing really bad things for really bad reasons, and people can figure out exactly which bakery you're thinking about. Yeah, it's the same kind of situation here.
Yeah. This is the father of the RPG here, Gary Gygax, by the way. He deserves everyone's respect. There would be no D&D, no tabletop by RPG. Well, he was a great creative force in that game space years ago. And frankly, I think he got kicked out of TSR, and now they're slandering him. And he's been trying to kind of bring his own brand of RPGs back, which maybe we should be looking into playing instead of the actual official Wizards of the Coast D&D. Especially with what they've done to it. But
it's absolutely ridiculous. But this is something that a lot of the fans have pointed out. And we've been doing this ever since they've been putting out new version. It's like, I don't need to play your new version. I don't need anything you're putting out anymore. I have all the original books, and I have multiple versions from there on. I can literally create my own games and continue playing without you. I do not need you anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that you exist, you should be thanking this man. But no, you're going through your whole DEI, you know, modern day snowflake bull crap, you know, and everybody who was a white male who lived before you was an evil whatever, istophobe.
Yes.
Keep in mind that Dungeons and Dragons was, and someone else who knows more about the history than I do might know exactly. It was originally based on, you know, miniature combat warfare. That these games that literally exist back to before the Napoleonic era.
Yes.
You know, I mean, people like Napoleon played games with dice and miniatures on maps.
Yes.
You know, working out the strategies of wars.
Peter Cushing was an aficionado of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was considered to be a scholarly, highbrowish
like
kind
a gentleman's
of thing.
hobby. Yeah.
What Gygax did, well, he played all these World War II games and these, you know, plane simulator type combats and stuff, and ground battles and stuff. And he said, how cool would it be? Because he literally had a medieval era wargaming game set, and he's like, you know, and this is what we do with D&D, right? You're playing the game and you see a movie that inspires you, but you know, they have lightsabers instead of, you know, +2 titanium swords or whatever. And you go, I wonder if I could make some optional rules for a lightsaber. Or I wonder if I could make optional rules for psionics instead of magic. And then well, you know, it started with Gary Gygax going, well, we've got all this, you know, medieval combat with the horses and the, you know, the siege engines and all this kind of stuff. What if one side had a magician, you know, a wizard, you know, like Merlin, you know, and he threw some rules in for that, you know, and that's really all it was. You didn't play individual characters back in the beginning. You played, you know, you played groups of them. Yeah. And it, you know, it wasn't hit points. It was the number of people in the group that got killed. Right. But one of them might've had a magic user. So this was the rules for what they could do and so on and so forth. And it was kind of like having a siege engine, but he was a person. Right. And it just kind of built from there. And eventually it got to, you know what? You know, we got all these fantasy stories that we're kind of emulating on a big scale. Let's bring it down to small scale, and you could play an individual character in that kind of a setting. And that's where D&D came from. But there's a lot of real history fictionalized within D&D. So when you have elements like, you know, one of the most common ways that your character comes into being an adventurer is the Conan method. You start out by being a slave who fights his way out, you know, and
Spartacus.
Yeah, or Spartacus or what? Yeah, exactly. And then these friggin' snowflakes today go on, oh, they treat slavery like, you know, it's just a normal thing, you know, buy and sell commodities.
It was a normal thing in the old days, in the ancient world. I'm sorry.
No one says it was good, especially when you were the slave.
Yes.
That's part of the story, dumbass.
They don't know history. They don't know anything. They just know they go to where the power is. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
We'll see if that's changing. Anyway, I think it's disgusting. We're going to be following up on this in the weeks to come. I want to know exactly what they're saying in these intro manuals about the original creators, and maybe looking to see what Gary Gygax's company is up to now. I know they made a game called Top Secret for TSR, and I think he still has the rights to that, right? Was that like spies and espionage?
I don't know who owns the rights now. Gary Gygax has passed, so it's
who was I thinking of that had it? Maybe his son has it then. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I this could very well be the same kind of situation as with Tolkien, where, you know, maybe the kids don't care or anything. But it doesn't matter, because you know what? The game community exists, and there are people putting out their own independent games. There's I'm forgetting what it's called. It's called Classic Dungeon Delve or something like that, or I don't remember. But they're going back and they're making games based on the rules and the style of first edition, second edition, third edition Dungeons and Dragons. You know, you don't need TSR anymore. There's people out there creating their own stuff. You know,
and the fans make the best stuff.
Yep, they absolutely do.
Which doesn't lead into the story I thought it would. Okay.
No, it doesn't at all. But the pushback against it kind of does. This is the only thing I had in the segment on cinema this week. This is almost barely cinema, but we'll get into it.
She's nice looking, but looks aren't everything. Anyway,
she gets less and less good looking the more you get to
she
know
opens her mouth.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here we go. She has to go. Megyn Kelly says Disney should fire Snow White actress Rachel Zegler after insane post about Trump voters. Democrats are still struggling to reckon. This is from the Megyn Kelly site.
Well, wait a minute. Before you get into this, we should preface this with we had talked about that rant. Was it last week or the week before?
Yeah, it been in the thing, yeah.
And how Disney had apparently kind of forced her to retract it. And it was an apology, non-apology, right? It was very clear that she said, well, you know, I was so emotional. My emotions got the better of me. She didn't say I shouldn't have said it. She just, or that she didn't mean it. She basically said I shouldn't have said it. And my emotions caused me to say something that I shouldn't have said. But
yeah, it
doesn't matter. You gave us a peek behind the curtain. We know who you are now. Well, we knew who you were before, but
there's
now
a
you
line in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yes.
When Al Pacino's character says, "Don't open your mouth until you know what the shot is." Remember?
Right.
And it's like, know when to shut up, know when to close your mouth and stop talking, as Commander Riker said to Admiral Picard. Remember in that?
Well, the fake Admiral Picard, yes.
I love that sequence.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good Riker episode too, when he's basically he's realizing it's all facade and he starts yelling at everybody and he says,
and when that's right, because Admiral comes out and he goes, "Shut up." What did you say? I said, "Shut up."
I beg your
be
pardon.
Quiet. Close your mouth.
Stop talking. Yes.
Stop talking. Yeah.
And then Deanna's like, Will, you're being very, stay out of this, Deanna. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. And of course, it looks so obvious when you're watching it. It's all about the Romulans, and there's a peace treaty. We just have to, they're now part of the Federation. We just have to share this information with them. It's like it's so suspicious. I'm sorry, off track. Back to Rachel Zegler.
Yeah. It's just reminding us, going back to what we were saying at the beginning of the show, how much we loved Star Trek, right?
I wanted to come back. We'll talk more about that in a bit.
I know.
She has to go. Megyn Kelly says Disney should fire Snow White actress Rachel Zegler after insane post about Trump voters. Democrats are still struggling to reckon with their massive loss to Donald Trump and Republicans last week, and they can't seem to figure out what went wrong for them. That's is true of Democrat politicians. That is true of corporate media. That is true of Hollywood. The latest example comes from actress Rachel Zegler. She rose to fame in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story remake, but you might remember her from all the controversy surrounding Disney's upcoming live-action live-action remake of Snow White. There was the backlash to the beloved Seven Dwarves being dropped in favor or magical creatures, and also Zegler herself going off about how her version of the 19th century German fairy tale doesn't need a prince. And we knew all this. Well, Zegler's back in the controversial comments. You see, she is very, very upset about Donald Trump's win, as evidenced by a post on her Instagram story. IG stories disappear after 24 hours, but a screenshot of her tirade, which was written in all lower cases in true Gen Z fashion. That's Megyn Kelly's words, not mine.
No, but she's not wrong.
Okay. I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in, leading us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. For the record, she has no daughter. She has no children.
Exactly.
That's Megyn Kelly. Leading us toward a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Your daughter who doesn't exist, Zegler, is 23-year-olds with no kids.
Learning, and therein lies the irony, right? You don't have a daughter. You want her to have the right to not have a daughter, just the way you have the right to not have a daughter. So you won't have a daughter to worry about in the first place.
Like, why isn't she talking about herself? If that's what she's, this isn't about an imaginary daughter. This is about her, but she's not making. Okay, leading us
Right.
towards a world that is fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke in fear this morning, and I'm here with you to cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should have been, and it certainly should not have been for someone else. But this is the kicker. I echo Ethel Kane's statement more than anything. May Trump supporters and Trump himself never know peace. So yeah, and this is Megyn Kelly says, "What the f?" Another Instagram story. She went on to discuss deep sickness in the country, showing the sheer amount of people who showed up for this man who threatens our democracy. She also attacked X and Elon Musk and finished with a F dash Donald Trump. And then Megyn Kelly just says she has to go. So yeah. What do you think?
Well, I've been saying this about a lot of things lately. First, in the run-up to the campaign, what was the big Democratic talking point? Democracy is on the ballot, right? Get out there and vote. Yeah, that's something that we can agree on. Democracy was on the ballot. Democracy won. The majority won.
He even got the
He
popular
got the popular vote.
Yes.
He got the electoral vote. The majority wanted Trump. You are in the minority. Get the F over it.
I'll say this for all my, a lot of this Hollywood stuff is just, they've all kind of shut up now, but she just keeps running her mouth. And I have a suspicion Disney went to her and told her, I mean, this is behind the scenes stuff. We don't know what happened behind the scenes, but they got a lot riding on the Snow White movie, right?
More, it seems, every week, every month, every year, as they keep doing redos and recuts and re-edits and refilming. They've spent enough money to make this movie 5 times over at this point. There is no way they're going to make their money back.
How are the investors at Disney not noticing this? Who's left investing in them? How do they not know that they keep blowing money like this?
This is what you have to understand about the investors. The investors are not us. We are the fans that pay attention to this stuff. The investors don't know or care or understand any of this fandom stuff that we talk about. All they know is what the stock market says, what the financial papers say, like Forbes and that kind of stuff, and what Disney says in the earnings call. Going back to what we were talking about before, about how a company has to legally disclose, what's going on with their earnings, why they didn't do so well, what they're going to do better, so on and so forth. But if they don't talk about certain things, the investors don't know about it. And if you listened to, well, actually, I wouldn't just listen to the earnings call. I would go to Valiant Renegade's channel and listen to it there with his commentary, where he points out the things they did not talk about. For example, at no time during the investment call, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
They did not mention this upcoming movie. As they mentioned the whole slate of all the movies that were coming up, they never once mentioned this movie.
They know it's going to bomb.
Because if they did, they would have had to have spoken to all of this other stuff. So this is why the investors don't know. And they are going to be in for a rude awakening when this comes out and bombs terribly. That's when I think you're going to start seeing, just like Hasbro is seeing, a bunch of investors suing for breach of fiduciary responsibility. I mentioned that some time ago in regard to Disney. Remember those words. Breach of fiduciary responsibility. Yes. That's going to start happening more and more and more. It's happening to Hasbro right now. It's going to happen in a big way to Disney, and that is going to shake the entire industry.
Every movie Rachel Zegler has been in has underperformed or outright flopped.
In fairness, some of that has nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
Her appearing in it in a minor role probably has little or no impact on the movie.
It was that
But
Shazam sequel. I think she was in the Shazam sequel. Was she
was
Isis
she?
in the Shazam
No,
sequel?
no, she was
Okay,
not.
okay, all right.
I don't know what role she played,
Maybe
but
she wasn't. I thought she was. I don't know. I didn't watch the Shazam sequel.
well, I actually have it on DVD. I haven't watched it yet. I want
Okay.
to.
Well, you'll have to let me know how it is and if she's in it.
It's probably going to be disappointing, but and well, I mean, we said the same thing about what was the movie Skull Island, right, with Brie Larson in it. I didn't even know who Brie Larson was when I saw that movie.
No, and that's a good movie. I liked Kong Skull Island.
So just because these dingbats are in these movies isn't what's tanking them. Sometimes it's a bad movie and they're choosing bad movies. That's another thing that I hold against. You can't blame them that the movie did bad. I absolutely can. They read the script. They decided to, just like in an investment, you make an investment and that investment doesn't pan out. You lose money and you could end up going broke because of it. Well, same thing with an actor. You choose a job and you're in a movie that doesn't do well, that could end your career. Part of your success as an actor isn't just how good an actor you can be, but how well you can choose the roles and turn down bad roles.
She showed up in West Side Story because of was it a blind audition was it a YouTube Stars or something? Because I think she had a YouTube channel originally, and then she got the big break in West Side Story because Spielberg was looking for new talent, and that's the problem. She believes she's an A-lister, but nothing has proven that you're not a star until the audience has said you're a star, and that has not happened yet, Rachel. And you keep running your mouth, and you've been told not to run your mouth, and you keep doing it anyway. Shut up. I want the Snow White movie to come out already. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of it getting postponed. I want it to come out. I want it to bomb, and I want the repercussions to finally hit. Drive me nuts. I don't know if any movie's been postponed as much as Snow White. This is ridiculous.
And then it's gotten to the point where people are actually speculating on whether or not it's going to be, or if they end up having to take a huge tax write-off. Now, it seems incredible to even consider that. This is we're not talking about some streaming show like Willow or something like that, right? Or some other, crap show that wasn't going to make them any money anyway, and it's easy to just acolyte it away. This is high profile. This is lots of dollars. This is big budget cinema release. So whether or not this gets released may very well depend on who's in charge of Disney in 2025.
Yes.
There's still a lot of question marks around that, so we'll have to watch.
All right, moving on.
Oh, yeah.
J.K. Rowling.
Now we start talking, speaking of streaming, we're going to start talking about the streaming market now. Yeah.
Yes. All right. HBO, wait, let me get you, has just opened... has just openly welcoming. Excuse me. I'll just read
HBO now just openly welcoming J.K. Rowling's involvement in Harry Potter.
I don't
series.
like that sentence.
Well, no, because you know what they're basically saying. They've been fighting against it, and she's a this and a that, and now they're just openly welcoming her. Yeah, like they just gave up.
Because she's the creator of the series, and I believe she owns it.
Mm-hmm. That is the key. You can say what you want about Dungeons and Dragons or the Tolkien estate or Dune. Okay, the people that made these things are dead, and
George Lucas sold it, so he doesn't have control.
George Lucas sold it, yeah. So they have no control over these things. But this one still owns the damn thing. And if you want any part of it, you do it her way or not at all.
After years of playing coy with the fact that one of its biggest money-making brands was the parentheses curse brainchild of a person who spent the last 4 years transforming her brand from he gay switch his birthday is today to the generalized spewing of transphobic rhetoric. Again, this is the AV Club spouting this, but like I said, we just did Megyn Kelly, so we take all kinds here, right?
Right.
To the general.
Yeah,
okay.
no, that title automatically gives away that there's a bias here, but it's kind of almost humorous, you know. It's like the seething. Let the seething begin.
Warner Brothers Discovery has gone ahead and embraced the J.K. Rowling of it all. Yes, because they're trying to make a Harry Potter series and they want it to do well because it costs money and they need to make money because companies like Warner Brothers especially need to make money because they're even more in the hole than Paramount was. And they need, this is a big moneymaker for them.
And here's the other thing I keep pointing out. You're so upset about Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling and whatnot. Then stop going to the movies. Stop buying the books. Stop buying the wands and the
video
brooms
games
and stuff and the video games. Okay? No, you won't do it. You don't really have that conviction. And further still, go make your own damn thing then. Make your own woke crap.
Yep.
Oh, wait, that doesn't make money, does it? Now you know why.
The entertainment giant issued a statement today on Rowling's Neither
one of us can talk tonight, for crying out loud.
On Rowling's environment with the Harry Potter TV show, it's currently cooking up, writing that J.K. Rowling has the right to express her personal views. We will remain focused on the development of the new series, which will only benefit from her involvement. Game, set, match. Be nice if Disney had said this about a Gina Carano, but unlike many of the stars of the Harry Potter film franchise, including leads Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, Eddie Redmayne, all of whom have spoken out in favor of trans rights and expressed their disappointment with the author's turn toward her current obsessions, Warner Brothers has very carefully never spoken out against Rowling, whose belief that trans men are women and trans women are men has completely subsumed any other aspects of her online presence since roughly 2020. Now, to be fair, that's this article saying this. I noticed that people have a tendency to put words in her mouth that she never said too, which has been proven. So, but yeah, basically,
just pointing that out caused a professor at a prestigious university to lose his job.
I remembered that. He has a successful YouTube channel now, at least.
Yes, he does. Let me tell you, though, just going back to the Harry Potter stars, let me translate what they said. Those ingrateful bastards decided to turn on her. They wouldn't have a career without her, but they had no problem turning on her because it was politically expedient for them to do so.
Well, it doesn't matter because now there'll be new Harry Potter stars because they're starting it over again as a series, which I hope will turn out better than some of the movies did. The movies were a mixed bag. I'm hoping the series will be truer to the books. Now, though, the company, which under David Zaslav's IP-obsessed leadership has gone hard to milk more money out of the most profitable brands, most notably with this upcoming TV series, is signaling not just leery acceptance, but an active embrace of her involvement. What are they supposed to do?
I know.
We try to avoid phrases like cowardly, or I'm not even going to say that word, while writing news pieces like this. These aren't news pieces. You're editorializing.
Yeah.
So instead, we'll just note that the only real difference between what Warner Brothers Discovery is doing ago, when it was continuing to profit mighty off Rowling's work via films, theme parks, games, merchandising, and more, and now is that it's admitting the tacit support it's always given her, despite her quote-unquote personal views. You know? Okay, now they're talking about Kamala Harris losing the election. I don't know what this has to do with anything.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it.
This is what was driving me nuts.
This reminds me of what's her name from Ghostbusters 2016. You know, that's like some Trump crap. You know, it's like, what does this have to do with Trump? You know?
Keep in mind that J.K. Rowling, in my opinion, is not someone I would even consider on the right. She's a self-explained feminist too on many things, but she drew the line at like the men being in the well, as we're using the PC thing, the women that used to be men going to women's prisons, and then suddenly bad things start happening. She's upset about that. This is
what I was talking about the other night when we were talking about, third and fourth wave feminism, right? She would be a second wave feminist.
Yes.
right? She's that equal rights, equal pay, regardless of gender, so on and so forth. And that's the kind of stuff that pretty much everyone's kind of behind. Nobody's saying no, but the other thing is women have the right to choose, right? You have the choice to be a mother or to go into the business world or whatever, and nobody should be saying boo about those choices.
She's done it all, though. She's been a mother. I know she's a wife now,
She was
and
a single mother.
she
She
was a
was a
single
single
mother.
mother for a lot of years.
She did get
She
married again. Yeah,
struggled.
yeah.
She struggled, and
And now
she
she's
is
one of the richest women
literally
in the
a
world.
self-made woman,
Yes.
right? And I mean, we're talking like homeless poor at one time.
And she was writing books whenever she had the time to do it. Like, she tried to sneak down to a cafe for like a half hour while the kid was sleeping, and just,
yeah,
right. She did these stories, and she did it all by hand. Very intelligent woman. I don't know if you like Harry Potter or not, but there are a lot of details in those books. She did her research.
I haven't actually read the books,
yeah.
but I saw the movies. The first couple, I honestly fell asleep during them.
They're not great adaptations. They remove a lot of the wit from the books.
Well, I've been finding out
the
what are those, the Super Carlin brothers or whoever they are. It's a YouTube channel that does a lot of videos about Harry Potter, and a lot of fan theories that they do, but also a lot of talking about the lore from the books as opposed to the movies. And I'm realizing there's some really, really rich lore in those books.
Oh, there is. Yes, there is. No, she did her due diligence. And whether you or not you like the books, the Potter movies are okay. They got really bad toward the end. They were really butchering the books. That woman is on par with J.R.
Yeah,
Tolkien.
J.R. Tolkien. Yeah, no, I was just thinking exactly that. And welcome, by the way, Jonathan.
I would argue that this Harry Potter was to the millennial generation sort of what Star Wars was to the Gen X. That's how huge it was. But I actually read the books. I did read them as they came out too. I think of
course you read them as they passed over your desk in the library, right?
Well, this was before I was working.
Okay.
When I was working at a bookstore, when it was a much younger boomer at a regional book chain. I was never there for a Harry Potter launch, though. That was interesting. She got kids to read.
Yeah.
I got kids to feed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin is a simp. Well, you know what? It hasn't helped him any because they still hate him over there in the woke corners. He was getting attacked when he was giving out the awards.
Well, he's also attacked by his fans because he's a lazy slob who won't put out his next book.
He's been involved with a lot of TV stuff, though. He has too much stuff on his plate. Anyway, moving on. But I did want to say this. This, I think, is actually a good sign for the Harry Potter series that she is involved. It may avoid them from making some really stupid decisions. And I know people would say, "Oh, it's not diverse." As Harry Potter was always diverse. There you have students at Hogwarts from all over the world. Okay, that was the point. So we'll see how it turns out. This makes me feel better about the Harry Potter show they're working on now. If they can just get a handle on DC, Warner Brothers, you've got one more shot at this. And I'm not hopeful. Sylvester Stallone in the news again. This is a short one, but more Tulsa King is on the way. Star and executive producer Sylvester Stallone is finalizing a new pact to continue on Taylor Sheridan's hit Paramount Plus drama series for the next 2 seasons. Deadline is learned. With him on board, Tulsa King is poised to get a 2-season renewal for seasons 3 and 4. Sources said no one would comment, but I hear Stallone is getting a raise from $1.5 million per episode he was paid in season 2, which is up from $750,000 an episode for season 1. A 2-season pickup for Tulsa King would not be a surprise as it comes on the heel of a strong second season whose finale debuted on Sunday. No one in the chat tell me how this ends. I haven't gotten to it yet.
Right.
I'm going to watch season 2 when school's over. Anyway, the season 2 opener gets set series highs with 2 million global views on premiere day, 5.4 million over the first 7 days. Through 35-day season 2 average more than 10 million global households, outpacing season 1 by 8%. Okay. So that's good. It's getting more popular.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good show. It's like The Sopranos meets Yellowstone. If I
I
could,
guess, yeah, that's the way of looking
except
at
I'll
it.
say that his character on the show is more. He has a code of honor more so than some of the characters on The Sopranos had.
I did see a clip of this,
Yeah.
and it was him. Let's just say it was him buying a horse.
Oh.
And it's the little clip that I saw made me really like his character.
I'll check it out. I do know there's a clip from the latest season where someone says, "What do you think of windmills?" And he turns around and says, "They blow," which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
I want Demolition Man 2. We definitely could use a Demolition Man 2 now, considering that parts of Demolition Man were coming true in our current time. But
I know, and
the
we
entire
haven't even
policing
had
of language and everything, and the
oh gosh,
anti-fun brigade and just everything.
the
But,
anti-fun brigade. Yeah, exactly.
the funny thing about Demolition Man, I did make a point though. There's a scene in it where he has the car crash and then the foam appears all around him.
Yeah,
He has to bust out of like the styrofoam, and I'm thinking,
yeah,
you know what? I'm making fun of this future. That's a good idea.
kind
That
of.
saved
Yeah.
his life. It may look ridiculous, but actually was practical. That little advancement. So not everything about the future was bad.
Actually, I love the line when he gets out. What happened? I'm driving along 1 minute. Next thing I know, my car turns into a cannoli.
I get it, yes, but it was, it was smart. Tulsa King. I need to catch up on season 2.
I need to catch up on season 1, apparently.
It's a good show. It's one of the few ones I'd recommend that's on
what I've
TV right
heard,
now.
yeah.
James Cameron's, and I'll say this about Paramount, they do put stuff on physical media. I complain a lot about the streaming stuff, but a lot of their shows do make it to physical media that are on the streaming service. So that's good that they do that. Yeah. James Cameron's $405 million epic that still needs a sequel becomes a Netflix hit 5 years later because it's a hit movie. It always was a hit movie.
Yep.
I would argue it probably would have been a bigger hit movie at the time if the press hadn't sabotaged it. The American press, I know how they did it. They were saying, "Oh, it looks like it's going to bomb," and I think that set things in people's head that, "Oh, well, no point in going to see it."
Well, they also made it a competition between this and the Brie Larson
Marvel, which makes no sense because they didn't come out the same weekend. I think what was Captain Marvel 2 weeks after this. I don't know why they were trying to sabotage this. I thought they were pro female heroes.
For the same reason that they were anti Gina Carano. Right?
Because not the right kind of female hero, I guess. Also, not Disney owned, because at this point, Disney hadn't bought 20th Century Fox yet. Correct. But let's go into the article. James Cameron has been behind many legendary films, whether as a director, writer, or producer. In 2019, James Cameron produced Alita Battle Angel premiered and is now finding a new success on streaming. Per Netflix, Alita Battle Angel won the fight for the 4th spot in the Global 10 charts for the week of November 11th, November 17th. The cyberpunk film received 6.2 million views with 12.7 million hours viewed. The numbers are even more exciting this week because Alita Battle Angel entered the charts last week in 6th place with 4.2 million views and 8 million hours viewed. Based on Yukito Kishiro's manga series, Battle Angel Alita, the post-apocalyptic film, follows an abandoned cyborg found by scientist Dr. Ito, who names her Alita after his late daughter. As she wakes up, she has no memories and has to navigate life in the treacherous Iron City, which bears many memories of her old past. The fast-paced cyberpunk action film stars Rosa Salazar as Alita, as well as a series of famous names like Christoph Waltz, Jennifer Connelly, Mahershala Ali, Ed Crean, Jackie Earl Haley, and Kian Johnson. 1992's El Mariachi and Spy Kids franchise director Robert Rodriguez helmed the movie with a script from James Cameron and Leda Kalogridis. And imagine if we had just gotten that Battle Angel 2 sequel, we might not have gotten Book of Boba Fett, right? Okay. Sorry.
All around, we would have been better off.
Some were arguing some of the stuff in Book of Boba Fett was left over from his Alita ideas, like the Vespas. Maybe they were meant to be in an Alita movie.
Honestly, my thought was
made more sense. Yes,
I honestly believed that he was trying to leverage the work he was doing on Book of Boba Fett to try and get that sequel. on the one hand, putting in elements that were like, hey, don't forget, this is what I do, and Alita and cyborgs and things, right? And he really thought that that Book of Boba Fett would be a big enough success that he could say to Disney, okay, let me friggin' do this sequel. It just didn't work out that way because in a lot of ways, Disney sabotaged their own project.
It has friggin' awesome special effects. Yes, it does. This is an example of great CG, right?
And the thing I love is what's her name? Salazar.
Rosa Salazar, yes.
Rosa Salazar. She has been the opposite of that snow off white chick,
Yes.
where she is just so sweet to every single one of the fans. She never has a negative thing to say to anybody, right? And
yeah,
when asked if she would come back and do a sequel, she says, I would do a sequel whenever they want me. She says, besides this role, with the CG and stuff, it doesn't matter how old I get, I can still play this role. So you better believe I'll come back and do this.
I hope that we, even if we don't get an Alita sequel right away, I'd like to see Rosa Salazar in more movies. I think that needs to happen.
Yeah,
And,
she was in a series on a streaming service.
She did, and it was weird because it was done like that rotoscoped way. I did watch a couple episodes of it. I meant to get back into it, but where she was, where it was like it was done in that rotoscope fashion, but it was animated.
I wonder if she's gonna end up getting typed that way. She's always going to be a motion capture for some sort of animation, kind of like Ron Perlman is always in heavy makeup.
Yes, but she's a nice-looking woman in real life.
Yes, she is.
Be in regular movies. I mean,
which is fun. Well, and see, that's the funny thing. Whether it's Alita or that other role that she was playing, you could see it's her, right?
Yes.
They augment her looks, but it still looks like Rosa Salazar, And salute to the Clue channel. Welcome, channel member. Thank you very much for being here.
Welcome. All right. And then we move on to the story we've been trying to build up to.
Oh, gosh. This one, yeah. If you guys have not seen this, of course
I did, yes.
I have seen a little bit of the behind the scenes, too. But there's more behind the scenes than the length of this little vignette.
Captain Kirk, William Shatner, and Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy finally received closure as a new short film celebrates the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Generations. During the 10-minute movie, which is titled 765874 Unification, Trekkies are treated to what could have been a scenario as Kirk traverses the Nexus. Unification below combines live-action imagery with CGI, and both Shatner, along with Nemo's widow, Susan Bay, served as producers on the new flick released by Roddenberry Archive and OTOY. I'm not sure what that stands for, but
that's the name of the production company.
I see. The film begins with Kirk's good friend Gary Lockwood from Star Trek: The Original Series, who has already been infected by the USS Enterprise contact.
Hold. They brought him back and de-aged him.
Yeah,
they did not have to do that, and they did, and it was amazing.
Yep. The Great Barrier in the television series set in the pilot where no man has gone before. Gary closes his eerie eyes, which reflect the godlike power he receives in that episode thanks to his higher ESP rating. I remember that episode.
Yep.
Afterward, Kirk from Generations begins a journey across the Nexus, which will eventually reunite him with Spock on New Vulcan following the events of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek films. Well, it could be from that, or it could be from the regular Vulcan in the regular timeline. I don't
know. It was very clear. There's a lot of Easter eggs that distinctly tie it to the post 2009. It's kind of important. In fact, there is an alien that shows up that was in a storyline in Star Trek Discovery that acts as the go-between between the JJ verse and the Prime universe.
So where is Discovery? Is Discovery Prime or is it Helvenverse?
Nope. It's all different universes.
Trekkies are sure to eat up all the Easter eggs and nods to the Star Trek mythology too. Along with Gary Mitchell, who only appeared Kirk's best friend in that one TOS episode. The Enterprise captain crossed paths with Lieutenant Savick, played by Robin Curtis from Star Trek Through the Search for Spock, and Star Trek For the Voyage Home. Curtis famously took on the role after Kirstie Alley originally portrayed the half Vulcan, half Romulan in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Alongside Savick, Kirk finds another familiar face in Surak. His name is misspelled as Sorak in the credits, who was played by Barry Atwater in the original series season 3 episode The Savage Curtain. Fans can check out the heartwarming short film below to witness Kirk and Spock's final moments together. Seeing Captain Kirk reunite with Spock on his deathbed, not to mention seeing one of the Vulcan's lovers nearby in his final moments is alone worth watching. Oh, he's talking about Savick. Okay. In the unification. I thought we were going back to fan fiction written in the 1970s. No. Okay. However, it'll interest Trekkies to know that 87-year-old Gary Lockwood actually reprised the role as Gary Mitchell in the short film. Yes. Okay. Meanwhile, Sam Witwer of Smallville and Star Wars fame portraying young Kirk, and Lawrence Selleck playing Spock. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question though. Something that bugged me about this though. Where was David? Was he supposed to be in there with all those people?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we don't get
maybe. There's a lot of people in that crowd.
So he could have been in there, maybe. Yeah,
could have been. Don't know. Real quick, I want to acknowledge what John Conroy is saying here. He said that short brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah,
I made it through the short without tears coming to my eyes. You know what really got me teared up was when I saw the Critical Drinkers commentary on it. By the end of that, I was in tears. Go check it out. It's worth it. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
yeah, so... I was going to say that from some of the things I was hearing, some of the commentary I heard over on the Midnight's Edge talk about this and whatnot, it sounds like this wasn't just a Roddenberry production made with the permission of Paramount CBS. Apparently, they were actually involved in it. They not only gave permission, but they fully authorized it, to the point that a lot of fans are speculating this is meant to be continuity. This is canon.
Do you think this could have something to do with maybe possible plans for future Star Trek?
That is exactly what Tom Connors had speculated.
It's a signal to the fans, we will fix this, maybe?
Well, maybe not that far, but more a question. We're thinking about doing something along these lines. What do you think?
Yes.
They're gauging the fan response to this to see if they should, in quotes, fix Star Trek.
Fix Star Trek.
And that seems to be what the fans are going for. So you can be bothered by the fact that this canonizes Spock's death with the JJ verse and the character from the storyline of Discovery. But it seems that what they're doing is they're saying, yes, all of that stuff happened, but it's all a multiverse.
I can live with it because even in the original show and series, we've had bad episodes that I didn't care for. But what I just want going forward is I just want a good Star Trek series. And frankly, they need to basically set it past Next Generation and ignore that stupid thing in Discovery where they had to go into the future world that dilithium burned up, which didn't make any sense to me, which I thought was dumb. Just set it in a Starfleet. That's not like Star Trek, the next generation.
Yeah.
And look at the world today and see how factions are today, and maybe base how you're doing your alien relations. Look at the world today. I'd love to see the Cardassians heading up a European Union style federation.
Oh gosh, right.
Not opposition to the Federation, but sort of, but they're doing their own thing. And it would be the Cardassians running things. I'm not trying to allude to any real world powers. I'm just saying,
So there is one other element that I wanted to mention about this, and that's this great scene where, I think it's meant to be left open to interpretation. Is this Kirk is in the Nexus, and therefore he has access to all of time and space and realities. Is this after his death? And this is him passing through into heaven and stuff. And both he and his friend, he's there at his friend's death, and they both go to heaven together or whatever. That's a possibility too. I've even heard a speculation based on something from Picard that they found that Kirk's body is kept at the archives. That they find as an Easter egg. Maybe they resuscitate him or something. But be that as it may, I guess it's open to your own headcanon for what's actually happening here. He is on Vulcan, and he meets all of these people there to greet him, and one of them, of course, is Saavik, played by Robin Curtis. There are no spoken lines in this at all. So everything is conveyed through reactions and micro expressions and stuff. That's crucial because when we're talking about a de-aged Kirk, that face is CG. For those micro expressions to come through that so well is a testimony to where we've gotten on this level of computer graphics. He expresses surprise at seeing Saavik, and she has this look of, "Yep, it's me," you know. And
you
then
don't need to say,
it's like she starts to say something, and then she doesn't, and then she turns and looks at a Vulcan who is very prominent over her shoulder, a younger man. And he steps forward, and Kirk looks at him like, "I don't recognize him." And then all of a sudden, his eyes get real big, and he looks at Saavik, and she smiles.
Oh, Spock's son?
Spock's son. Yes. This is why I was saying I believe that fan theory has now been canonized.
If they did a follow-up Star Trek series like a next, like you could have Spock's son on it. You could do that.
I would not have a problem. In fact, whoever that actor is, I hope he's got acting chops. I'd love to see him playing. I don't know, Spock Jr. Whatever.
There you go. Because we never heard what happened with Spock after that. Maybe he and Saavik became an item. I don't know. Or maybe at least took responsibility for the kid, I'm sure. You know? I mean, we don't know.
They don't say he did get married because he mentions first Picard mentioned in the episode Sarek, I met Sarek at the wedding of his son. So we know Spock was married. I don't recall them ever showing or saying who his wife was. If one of you, Space Fraggle or Nate or Darth Plato, if any of y'all know that detail, let me know. I'd be really interested in that.
Check out this short film, though. It's a bit of a tearjerker. It'll remind you of classic Star Trek, and I think it's a great send off to Kirk that he's well deserved. And
absolutely,
I do think going forward, though, if they can resuscitate Star Trek, just move on, new era. I'd be interested to see what happened with.
Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. Sorry. JPRPH1 said there has been 3 of these Otoy shorts. Started a few years back.
I should watch them.
Robert Meyer Brunette cut them all together. Very cool. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Because previously we saw one that was that showed Spock at different ages, leading up to the reclamation of the Enterprise D at, what was it? Was it Narendra? It wasn't Narendra 3. Wherever the Enterprise D saucer section went down, they canonized the fact that they went to recover that saucer section, and while he was there, he went and visited the grave for Kirk, and a lot of people are saying, yeah, it really looks like this ties into the whole Picard thing, where they get the shuttle, the saucer of the Enterprise D, and give it a new secondary hull, which is very important storyline in the third season of Picard. Viridian 3, that's what it was. Thank you very much, Space Fraggle. And yeah, and it's also shows up that they reclaimed his body from Viridian 3 in season 3. So yeah, so good stuff, really good stuff, and this might be a turning point for Star Trek. I hope it is. I really hope it is.
Yeah. So fingers crossed. But maybe this is a sign to the fans that they want to kind of move it in a new direction at the very least.
So we were talking a little bit before about Netflix.
You like this little?
Well, yeah, Netflix had a big hit with Alita Battle Angel, and now they're getting hit with a lawsuit.
This is the article didn't have the picture when I went to, so I just
that was kind of brilliant. That was kind of brilliant. Yeah.
This is Mike Tyson's Punch on the NES. If you were able to get to Mike Tyson, and you could with a password that I got from a kid on the bus, because Lord knows I got, this was terrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the last boss of the game. He'll pound you, Little Mac, into the ground. Right? Netflix hit a $50 million class action lawsuit over Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. A Florida man has filed a class action lawsuit. It's always a Florida man. Okay,
it's always a Florida man. Netflix. Florida
man. Okay, over the poor streaming quality that affected millions during a worldwide viewed boxing match between former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson and YouTube personality Jake Paul on Friday night. Ron Blue Denton, resident of Hillsborough County, Florida, alleged that the streaming giant was guilty of breaching of contract over the frequent glitches, according to TMZ. The class action lawsuit filed in Florida state court is seeking damages of at least $50 million. Ronald Blue Denton filed a class action lawsuit against Netflix for the technical glitches that interrupted viewing of Mike Tyson's Jake Paul Friday fight on Friday night. AFP with Getty Images. 60 million Americans were hyped to see Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet, versus YouTuber turned prize fighter Jake Paul. What they saw was the baddest streaming on planet, the lawyer claims. It was alleged that many viewers missed portions of the fight due to interruptions. The Netflix customers experienced massive streaming issues and should have known better because it's happened before. They were woefully ill-prepared, according to the lawsuit. Citing over 100,000 people complaining online, the lawsuit claims that boxing fans, along with the average Americans wanting to see a legend that would most likely be his last fight, were faced with legendary problems, including no access, streaming glitches, and buffering issues. During the bout, many viewers took to social media to express their frustrations with streaming and buffering problems before and during the fight. According to the website Down Detector, nearly 85,000 viewers logged problems with outages or streaming leading up to the fight. Jake Paul was declared the unanimous winner after the 8-round bout against Tyson. USA Today Sports Reuters.com. I have a question.
Are they using the same servers as Microsoft Flight Simulator?
I'm wondering. I remember. So this was a live stream. Does Netflix typically do these live streams on their app? Because I know they have all this pre-stuff on there. But
I don't know.
I remember the HBO app had a horrible shutdown when Game of Thrones premiered, I believe, in season 4. Because people were anticipating, because this was the season after the big finale with the Red Wedding, and people were all tuning in at the same time, and it crashed the surfers or whatever on there. But you'd think that they would know that a lot of people would have been tuning into this, and that they should have been prepared. But again, I don't know if this is new to them doing these streaming live streams. I don't know.
We risk rehashing the same things we were talking about in the Microsoft bit. But yes, it's true.
No, Netflix is not normally doing live streams. Okay, I didn't think they did. Yeah,
it's kind of like the whole cable pay-per-view thing, right? You didn't. It wasn't always something pay-per-view, but when it was going to be big, and they needed to be prepared for that. It's funny because earlier Nate said that wasn't a fight, that was a lie. I honestly thought when I heard about this lawsuit that it was going to have something to do with that, and it doesn't at all. I think a lot of people, when they see the contract, and the rules for this fight, they kind of realize, oh, this was an exhibition fight.
Probably, yes.
This is more comparable to like professional wrestling than an actual, heavyweight boxing.
I thought it was like Ivan Drago versus Rocky Balboa in Rocky 4.
Kinda. But yeah, and the more I dug into it, and I realized, it wasn't as bad as what this kind of demonstrates. From what I hear, this Jake Paul kid was actually in pretty darn good shape.
Okay.
And Mike Tyson, actually, given his age, he's actually had some health problems that he's recently been coming back from. So it probably would have been a fairly even fight.
Okay.
If they'd have just left it alone. But it was not meant to be a fair fight. It was meant to be an exhibition and marketing strategy for Jake Paul. In fact, one of the elements of the contract, from what I hear, is that Mike Tyson got more money if the fight went longer. So basically, he was not incentivized to fight as well as he could early in the fight.
So it wasn't like in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, where he basically just bam, 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 you're done.
Do you know how to beat Mike Tyson in Punch-Out?
Of course not. How?
I'll tell you.
How?
You see the way he's posed right now, the top of his head? Draw a straight line from the top of his head up to the crowd, and the first person you see is holding a camera. Right?
The one who flashes the camera, that's the signal to
that's when he's vulnerable and you can hit him. Yeah.
Do you think the kids in the 80s on the playground knew about that?
Only if it was in one of those magazines that
I don't even know if the magazines knew about that stuff back then. That was what happened before the internet. If you were lucky, some kid would know, or you would have to get it from a magazine, but maybe not. There was no internet. There was no searching for things online. You had to figure it out yourself. And then you'd lose your save file. No, I'm kidding. That was
exactly.
That was for Zelda.
Well, for some, you were even the one pointing out to me that you go far enough back, there weren't save games. If you died on your third life, that was it. You were over. You're starting over again.
As I recall, this game had a password system, so that was good. That's how I was able to actually see the fight, because I was borrowing it from a friend. I'm like, I want to see Mike Tyson. Give me the password. And I get it. And I put the password in. It's like 36 chamber Shaolin when he says, I want to go to the 36 chamber because I want to learn the best martial arts there is. And it's just a room of old, like, wise Shaolin monks. And I think one of them he goes up to one of them and he just waves an arm and the guy gets blown back. That's how powerful the martial arts is at the 36 chamber.
Exactly.
You have to start from chamber 1 and work your way up.
That's kind of the problem. And anyone who's ever gamed knows this. If you jump to the end, as a player have the skill to win.
This was early days of gaming. This was like after I had the NES for like a month, and I wanted to see, so I didn't know the rules yet of how to properly play these things. But yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see how that lawsuit works out. I'm sure it will be settled for a free month of Netflix. We'll see. For each of the people
exactly.
But who knows? Maybe that's why it's 100,000 people, because you have to divvy out the money with that many.
My hope, and this goes back to the Microsoft bit too. I hope the company learns something. I mean, this is potentially, this is bad, but it's a potentially good thing if they learn from it. If you widen your bandwidth, if you get better servers, you can really excel. In the streaming wars, in the gaming wars, in the whatever area. People want your product. Make sure you can provide it.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of companies that don't provide entertainment, they just provide sorrow these days.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Star Wars.
Yep.
Author removed over DEI ! Is Lucasfilm acting legally? Publisher DK fired a longtime.
Real quick, I want to, although we always give you the link to follow to check this out, I do want to point out that this one in fact does come from Is this
W-
WDW Pro?
WW
or-
Pro, yes.
No, that Park Place. My apologies. They're affiliated, but that Park Place specifically.
Yeah, but he owns the site, doesn't he? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I actually don't know what the connection. I
Okay.
know they're affiliated. I don't know.
Okay. All right. All
I
right.
don't know their intimate business.
Anyway, we want to
relationship.
shout out that Park Place.
I want to shout out that Park Place, but as long as we're doing it, WDW Pro is pretty cool too.
Yes. Publisher DK fired a longtime co-author of the Star Wars Encyclopedia, then called Ultimate Star Wars, due to a mandate by Lucasfilm that they hire more diverse writers. Adam Bray has worked extensively on Star Wars and Marvel projects, including the Star Wars Encyclopedia and the Marvel Studios Visual Guide. After working on the 3 editions of what was then known as Ultimate Star Wars, Bray was surprised to find out that DK was moving forward with a 4th edition without him. This was particularly jarring for the writer, as he'd always received such high praise from Lucasfilm for his work. Bray sat down with that Park Place to discuss this turn of events and reflect on his history writing for a galaxy far, far away. As for my non-involvement, this was the first edition they didn't ask me to work on, Bray said. They didn't even tell me about it, which was highly unusual. A few years back, the executive editor told me I was DK Licensing's best writer. She told me Pablo Hidalgo told them I was their best writer. Secondhand quote, but I believed it.
There's your problem.
Well, so why then, with such a stellar record and the reported approval of Lucasfilm creative executive, was Bray not asked back for another foray into the Star Wars universe? According to those he spoke with, Bray's talent had nothing to do with the submission. Rather, DK dropped him from the Star Wars project because of his race and gender. This mandate reportedly came from Lucasfilm itself. When I asked about the book, I was told Disney Lucasfilm told them to use more diverse writers, Bray said. Apparently, I'm not on the diversity list of authors because I went from doing several books a year from Star Wars to suddenly none. No explanation, and I always had a stellar relationship with Lucasfilm and DK, but suddenly nobody answered my emails, though they still use my work to name to create new books. Bray is co-author of the latest edition of the Star Wars Encyclopedia. However, he didn't work on it, nor was he paid for it. This is far from the first time such an injustice has occurred. Even this year, there are 4 new books from Marvel and Star Wars that list me as a co-author, Bray said, but I'm neither informed or compensated. Wow, they're still using his name because people buy these books, recognize the name, and they want to, because he did good work the last time. Braid made waves on X this week when he noted the inclusion of fired Star Wars actress Gina Carano in the encyclopedia, while all characters related to the Acolyte were left out. This is highly illegal, what they're doing, correct?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Can he prove it? He could at least prove that they're sticking his name on the book without hiring him back, right? So what's the reasoning behind that? That's his name.
I was gonna say, unless there's something in a contract that says, and I would find it very.
We own your name. We just don't have to pay you if you don't do any work. That's sick.
Well,
I can see them putting
it's
something
the
like
Alex
that
Jones clause, right? No, but seriously, using somebody else's name and profiting from it, that's a lawsuit, and I hope he does follow up on that. It's a little harder to prove the DEI thing. You got to be able to prove that someone said what is said that they said,
Yeah, I mean, we have that. We had that those videos that came out earlier in the year.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, I hope he sues the tar out of these bastards.
They need to do an investigation at the very least. This isn't cool. I don't suppose this could show up in the Gina Carano court race. It'd probably be like rejection relevance, but
no. But what could happen is, this goes to court and they might start citing the Gina Carano case.
Right.
That would be appropriate. And I hope that does happen. And honestly, folks, keeping in mind we're less than we're in November. We're less than 2 months away from 2025.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole new world next year.
I hope so. A better one.
It's going to be a whole new world. Even if it's not everything we're hoping for, it's going to be an improvement. Yeah. Hell, maybe we can avoid World War III. Wouldn't that be a good year?
Year's not over yet. Anyway, he should join Gina Carano's lawsuit. Yeah, at least Elon Musk could look into this maybe after the Gina Carano lawsuit, depending on how it happens. Because course, I know he's busy with other things at the moment, but we'll see. So that wraps it up. This was Geeky Geezers with your host Aged Boomer and my co-host Papa Pacelli, and it's over. There's no more geek news. We did a lot tonight. I didn't expect us to spend so much time on the Star Trek 3, but we got to
I
talking
think
about
that was probably the
Klingons,
best segment, though. It was
and we
the
got to
best
talking.
segment tonight.
Well, we got to talking about Klingons, so I should have known.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you are the Klingon cleric, right? So
That's exactly right. Let me tell you, I'm looking at this logo here, and I just want to point out that neither one of us actually looks this old. I kind of
I feel this
augmented.
old.
I do too sometimes. But the fact is, it's called Geeky Geezers. We went, I pivoted into the geezer element of this, but yeah.
Good night,
Good night,
Conroy.
Jonathan Conroy. Thank
Good
you
night.
so much.
Thank
for
you, Space
stopping by.
Fraggle. So what we got going on this week? Nothing going on tomorrow, right?
Nothing going on tomorrow night. I can't do Monday night at the movies. I have a dentist appointment immediately after work, and I need the time to edit because on Tuesday, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, over on Deleted Scenes channel is part 2 of Twin Peaks: The Final Dossier, over on Live from Sparkwood 21. And thank you so much, Geek Flag. $2 super chat to say another good one. Good job, you old bastards.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, hey, you pay me, you can call me a bastard. No problem.
I've heard other streamers say you send me a super chat with name call. You can call me whatever you want. It's a super chat.
Exactly. I don't promise to always read a super chat if it's gonna be something that's gonna get me demonetized, but I don't mind.
We'll see if
I'll
that's a
bring it
naughty
up
word
so
or
other
not.
people can read it. Yeah, exactly.
We'll see if it's a naughty word or not. We'll see.
Well, yeah, if I find this well, honestly, I may have said some things of a political nature that might get this demonetized before the word bastard does. It's just for crying out loud.
But then Tuesday doing Sparkwood 21. It's going to be
Sparkwood 21.
The dossier.
Yeah, it's a good one. We get the backstory on Wyndham Earl. We're going to talk about what happened to Annie Blackburn. We're going to talk about the Log Lady. Yeah, there's a lot there. So yeah, something to look forward to.
But then on Wednesday, I will be on Soundtracks with Birdman.
Wait a minute. I am still doing Blake 7 on Tuesday. So
I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, that's fine. Right after the Final Dossier, the next episode of Blake 7, 9:30 Central, approximately 10:30 Eastern. Then Wednesday, Soundtracks with Boomer.
And Birdman. Okay, we're just going to be doing our annual. He's been very busy with work, but he's going to be doing we're going to be doing the annual Thanksgiving Eve stream, and I will post a link to that in a minute. Okay. But we'll be doing the annual Thanksgiving Eve stream where I complain about all the bad Black Friday deals. I got a couple good ones, though. I'll say that. I did get the The Curse of Frankenstein on Blu-ray for only $8.99. That's a good deal.
I have to admit, the past couple of years, I haven't even been paying attention to Black Friday deals or Cyber Monday deals or any of this kind of stuff. I don't.
It's all right.
They aren't that important to me anymore.
I still buy video games, so I have to pay attention to the deals.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a good.
I was waiting for Shin Megami Tensei 5 to go.
God bless you.
That's not even the full title. Hold on.
Oh gosh! Here we go.
And Spank Inferno.
Yes,
yeah.
Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Yes, I was waiting for that to go on sale for the Xbox, and I got it for $24.99. So there we go. Okay, but
as long as it works when you start playing it,
this will.
Okay,
it should. In fact, that's the reason I got it on the Xbox, because I worried the Switch version would chug, but it should work fine on the Xbox because Nintendo needs a new console already. But then on Thursday, you and Ned are going to be having a day thing, right?
Yeah. So on my channel and Netter's channel, we'll be doing a Thanksgiving movie marathon starting at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. On both of our channels. I have not yet put up the list of the movies. I've got to schedule them out because, you know, you kind of have to figure it based on runtime for each movie and so forth. So I think the times may be subject to change throughout the day, depending on how quickly I hit play and how quickly we get through each movie. But I will just keep an eye on our community tabs to see that.
And don't expect a lot of chatter on the streams. It's like while the movies are playing, we may be off doing other things, getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner.
Very possibly, but we'll be touching in with you, and hopefully you guys can keep the chat going. And you know, I'm not expecting you to be there all day. If you can make it, great. If you can't, whatever. If you just want to put on a movie for your family, you know, just put us up on the big screen, pull it up on Cosme. You don't even need to bring us in if you don't want to hear us chat and you just want to play a movie for your family.
Or hear us not chatting.
Or hear us not chatting, whatever the case might be. But that'll be all day Thursday on both of our channels.
Will one of the Thanksgiving movies be Plan 9 from Outer Space?
I don't remember them celebrating Thanksgiving.
Neither do I, but I don't know. I just thought that might be.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay.
Well, they're all going to be Thanksgiving movies of some kind.
It's just like when my family was over, or so we had company over on Thanksgiving. Mom was like, "Put on a Thanksgiving movie." And I'm like, "What do you mean Thanksgiving movie?" So I got 36 Chamber Shaolin, the one I was mentioning, the Kung Fu one. I just put that on. There you go.
Yeah.
It feels fallish. We'll put that on, even though it has nothing to do with Thanksgiving.
This one's for you, Boomer. Geek Flag says, Age of Boomer, my wife got a really good deal on Amazon. She got me a brand new professional chest knife set. It was originally $330 for $49. Wow, that seems like
they
a
got some good
price.
Deals on Amazon sometimes. Yeah, look out for them.
There you go.
All right.
And then Friday for last call. Age Boomer and I will be bringing you in the tradition of trying to bring you various variety shows and so on and so forth. We will be bringing you the Thanksgiving with Paul Lynde and Diane Cannon on the Carol Burnett Show from 1971.
It should be something
essentially
special.
It's the Carol Burnett Show's Thanksgiving episode. So.
It should be something special. We've never seen it, so we'll be going into this naked. Not literally naked, but you know,
right? Not
having seen it. Fresh eyes.
That's what I remember. You know, I used to watch the Carol Burnett Show on a very regular basis. I'd be surprised if I didn't see it, but I won't remember it until I, you know, start watching it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And then Saturday is actually on Big Al's channel, and I'm drawing a blank on which movie it is. Netter, do you remember? He told us.
Okay, wait. I know he's going to be watching The Great Escape.
I think that's it. It's The Great Escape with what's his name?
Deleted scenes?
No. If that's the case, then that's the following week.
Hold on, I'm looking it up right now. Let's see.
Oh yeah, I could just check. He always
Thanksgiving 24, The Great Escape.
Oh, it is The Great Escape. Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Next, I remember telling him how much he's going to enjoy it. It's a great film.
Wait a minute. Oh, that's on Thursday. That's what Soundtracks is Birdman.
Oh, that's Thursday. Okay. Soundtracks.
Oh, on 11:30, you're doing Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Paul Blart
Mall Cop.
What she said. Yes.
Troy can't say it's a tongue twister.
Yeah, with me, when I say that's what she said, it's because I can't speak and she's speaking for me. That's my version of that's what she said.
And then that brings us to Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
Which, Deleted Scenes channel's got stuff going on, including Unscripted, right?
Yep. and then Geeky Geezers for next week,
And
where
wish
we'll
both-
try to rein in the good old days segment a little bit. And really try to get to, well, it depends. If we don't have a lot of news this week, maybe we will want to bulk it up.
Maybe
with,
we will. We'll
with the
see.
good old
But
days.
I've noticed that stuff always seems to happen when you least expect it.
Yeah,
We'll
pretty
see.
much. That's what we call life.
That's true. All right. Catch y'all on the flip side. This was fun. And y'all have a good night, good week. Happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you again before then. All right.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Have some turkey.
Bye-bye.
And some